attention rapt as we wait. We've got Matt Odell, founder of 1031 Ventures, longtime Bitcoin advocate, and Christian Carolus of the Human Rights Foundation. Guys, what are you feeling right now? History might be made, it's delayed. Christian, you're on the stage.
Oh man, the anticipation is real. The anxiety and energy is in the air. I don't really know what to think, but I can't think of someone delaying Donald Trump other than huge guest.
Yeah, special guest. I'm not sure we can say more, but maybe potential history and maybe the internet will be broken, if we can call back to that. Obviously, we're talking about what policy proposals we might see from Trump. We've covered RFK's bold initiative yesterday. CK, maybe we can cut in there and just get your perspective. What can Donald Trump say on the stage to get Bitcoiners excited out in the polls in November?
Well, you know what? We talked about this earlier. Freeing Ross is an imperative. Second is protecting Bitcoin privacy, and a strategic reserve would be a very, very nice campaign promise. Going back to RFK, he pretty much gave Bitcoiners everything they could have asked for in terms of campaign promises. No one is bullish enough on these massive, massive campaign promises for Bitcoiners. And I think one that went a little underreported but is absolutely huge is the potential of removing capital gains tax from Bitcoin transactions. That has been a big, big thing that's hampering Bitcoin's use as day-to-day currency. And it's something that's really important because Bitcoin stacks both extremely well as a store of value as well as a medium of exchange. It's just that the current regulatory environment is very, very prohibitive of doing that.
We've been reading through some of President Trump's past statements, going all the way to his 2019 rejection of Bitcoin through his recent reversal. Want to highlight some of the remarks from July that have maybe flown under the radar, maybe taking us into a window of what he might be saying on stage, what he's thinking about how Bitcoin intersects with the future of America. He said, quote, "I don't want to be responsible for another country taking over this industry," calling his engagement with the industry, quote, eye-opening. And of course, the two quotes that got the most play on Bloomberg that day, quote, "China is into it, it's not going away." Matt, what do you think about this idea that Bitcoin is persisting, it's winning, and that the U.S. must react, in fact, to Bitcoin's rise around the world?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's simply adapt or die. I mean, I think the game theory of Bitcoin plays out that every person, every company, every government is incentivized to adopt Bitcoin as quickly as possible, because as this adoption cycle happens, the purchasing power starts to evaporate if you don't adopt it sooner rather than later.
Christian, your thoughts on some of this? Obviously, you work for the Human Rights Foundation, an organization with a global context. This idea that Bitcoin is on the world stage, that it's competing or maybe moving America's interests in a direction. Your take on the former president's remarks?
Well, no, I think that this is extremely important. The reality is that a lot of policy that happens globally is copycat policy from America and the West. So the U.S. often sets the tone. We're seeing that the Biden administration and the Department of Justice has made a very negative stand towards financial privacy within Bitcoin. HRF does not think that financial privacy is a crime, and we have many examples of where activists and freedom fighters need financial privacy to protect themselves from dictators that we supposedly oppose here in the U.S. So we need to look at what we are doing and know that this affects the entire planet, and if we can make a positive turnaround here in the U.S., we are hopeful that it can change policies around the entire globe.
I mean, off of what CK said, I really want to highlight here that as an American myself and as a Bitcoiner, I've worked with many developers, many open source developers throughout the world, and their main concern right now is legal liability over writing open source code. I think America stands to gain substantially if America is a place where they can safely build any project they want to build that is open source, that is not in their control, and that they do not have legal liability.
It's Bitcoin 2024. We are minutes away from Donald Trump taking the stage, making history. We're going through his past remarks right now, thinking about what he might be able to say and laying out a policy vision for the United States and Bitcoin. Christian, going back to you, another quote from Trump, quote, "Other countries are going to have it." This takes us maybe into his insight and thinking, and other countries are active on Bitcoin. Tell us what's going on around the world.
Well, the reality is that Bitcoin is a permissionless system, and we are already seeing countries like Bhutan, countries like El Salvador, they can permissionlessly adopt this technology. They no longer have to ask for permission to buy treasury bonds. They no longer have to ask permissions to use the US dollar. They can just mine Bitcoin on their own with their own resources. They can accept Bitcoin. They can buy Bitcoin. And if we fall behind here as Americans in the United States, that is not going to stop other countries that see it as a benefit from picking up on it, and they stand to gain outside gains.
Of course, waiting for Donald J. Trump to take the stage, the news we broke minutes ago, a special guest on the way. The reason for the delay, talking Trump right now, talking RFK. Want to switch a little bit to yesterday's remarks from Michael Saylor. Obviously, we're talking about a high bar for speeches at this conference. His message to the world, quote, "The financial life is being sucked out of you." His plea to have the United States buy 4 million Bitcoin of the 21 million that exist in his 21-year Bitcoin forecast. Want to walk through the bear, base, and bull scenarios? His bear case for the price of Bitcoin, $3 million per coin. His base case, $13 million per coin. In his bull case, a whopping $49 million per coin. In the midst of the Trump pump, we're at $69,000 today. Want to get this industry panel's reaction on these numbers. Matt, you seem happy.
I'm very happy. I've learned my lesson about making price predictions. I would say it's probably a little bit on the bearish side without saying absolute terms. Michael Saylor is a capitalist. Donald Trump is a capitalist. Through my work at 1031, we're investors in 36 Bitcoin companies, oftentimes the lead or the exclusive investor. Most of them are based in the United States. I think at its core, we need the United States to be the leader in places where you can actually run a Bitcoin business in an ethical way, in a sound way, that you have solid foundations that you can trust. And from a government point of view, you really cannot accumulate enough Bitcoin, no matter what. There's no number that is enough. I think Bitcoin is up and to the right forever. The question is, what is the timeline? It is a scarce asset. The supply will never change as adoption increases. And then later in the adoption cycle, as human flourishing increases, or GDP, etc., the Bitcoin purchasing power should increase with it. So if you go by that logic, you can never have enough Bitcoin, period. So every person, every company, every government should simply stay humble and stack sats as hard as possible.
Well, of course, the script is out the window here. We're 20 minutes over from when Donald J. Trump was supposed to take the stage. We're told we're minutes away and that a special guest is on the way. We're talking now about Michael Saylor's bold vision for Bitcoin, his insane price predictions. I think the reaction from the chat, obviously bullish. Are these price predictions insane, Christian?
Well, I am on the record for saying that Bitcoin is likely a paradigm shift in value. I think that it is a better system for communicating and making economic decisions. And therefore, if you divide all the value on the planet by 21 million coins, that is not enough because it is a better system. It actually makes infinity bigger. I think Matt alluded to that. As human beings continue to flourish, infinity will get bigger. And to be honest, there is no prediction on a long enough time horizon that is bullish enough. I don't think any of us can actually be bullish enough. Our monkey brains are just not smart enough to see the new paradigm.
Monkey brains here waiting for Donald J. Trump to take the stage. Expectations high for special guests. Of course, the chat's roving right now with expectations of who might come out. We don't know, of course. We're waiting to hear, but we know Donald J. Trump is here, that he will be speaking. They're now talking about Michael Saylor and his price predictions for Bitcoin. We're going to take it to a short series of ads. A word from our sponsor. We'll be right back. History is moments away at Bitcoin 2024. Stay with us.
The Bitcoin Conference. We started with a dream to build a community focused on Bitcoin. It all started in 2019 in the heart of San Francisco, the first major Bitcoin conference in years that kickstarted a revolution. And then Miami, a place where enthusiasts, developers, dreamers, and innovators could come together to make Bitcoin better. It has been an amazing 5 years and 8 conferences, thanks to all of you. Bitcoin Conference has become the largest premier global Bitcoin gathering in the world, leading hyper-Bitcoinization. While Miami was incredible, it was time to set the stage for Bitcoin in a new city. So we took the conference on the road. Nashville, Tennessee was the obvious choice, a city known for music and freedom. Next year, the conference is hitting the road again in search of the next global stage. We are headed to a new city next year. With hyper-Bitcoinization right around the corner, we have no plans to take the foot off the gas. Find out where we are headed next. Scan the QR code and be at the main stage for the big announcement.
Anyone can be a part of the Bitcoin economy. It's like a good church.
Because it's an ethical ideology, there are many people that feel very spiritual about it.
I think that Bitcoin has those characteristics to be not just the most Islamic form of money, but the most Jewish and the most Christian form of money as well.
Bitcoin is just another step in the technological development of how we can serve God better.
It is trying to remove politics from money.
Bitcoin can make the world a better place.
Welcome back to the Mara News Desk, powered by Bitcoin Magazine, the eyes of the world on Nashville, Tennessee. I'm your host, Pete Rizzo, editor of Bitcoin Magazine. The main event of Bitcoin 2024, minutes away, but delayed. If you're just tuning in on the stream, we're waiting for Donald J. Trump to take the stage at a Bitcoin conference with a special guest who is on his way. Obviously, no more to say on that, but a great panel who is going to kind of continue to talk about what we might see from the former and possibly future president to my left. Matt Odell, founder of 1031 Ventures, Christian Carolus of the Human Rights Foundation, and P, podcaster extraordinaire, joining us. P, take us into the reality. What's the sentiment on the floor right now?
I mean, it is electric. People are excited. They're ecstatic. They cannot wait to hear what is going to happen on stage in a few minutes, hopefully.
Well, we've been talking about these three words that have the world's imagination: strategic Bitcoin reserves. The expectations are high that Trump will make an announcement, and the pressure on because of RFK yesterday coming out saying he'll waive capital gains on purchase transactions, stockpiling 4 million Bitcoin. What does the president need to say, P?
Oh, man, that is a very difficult question to answer. I mean, the world is his oyster.
Well, take me into your thoughts as a Bitcoiner, someone who supported Bitcoin for a long time. Maybe he's even competing for your vote as an American. Is there something Donald Trump can say to you today?
You know, I mean, I am extremely excited to hear what he has to say about using Bitcoin as a reserve asset, support for Bitcoiners, support for Bitcoin as a store of value. So anything in that vein would be huge and would be extremely exciting to hear today.
Of course, we're taking questions on X, Rumble, and YouTube streaming live. Send them in. We are waiting for confirmation of when Donald J. Trump will take the stage. We've talked about his policy. We've talked about Michael Saylor's Bitcoin price predictions, and we're talked about the price activity, $69,000 right now, and expectations that the Donald Trump future presidency could be good for Bitcoin and the Bitcoin price. Christian, why don't you take us in there? Is that an expectation that viewers should have?
Yeah, I think that anything on the size of the United States becoming friendly and officially friendly to Bitcoin is absolutely fantastic for Bitcoin price, because that opens the door to all the innovations that is happening here. And I actually want to turn it to some reporting that I saw earlier today, which is that the Democratic Party is actually now pressuring to stop Elizabeth Warren's attack on crypto, and her siege against Bitcoin privacy and Bitcoin mining, and that this pressure is actually changing Bitcoin from a red issue to something that is apolitical. And I think that shows exactly how fighting Bitcoin is turning into a losing issue. So not only can it be a winning issue for a candidate, but opposing Bitcoin can absolutely be a losing issue. And, I would love to see in November some massive splashes against some anti-Bitcoin politicians, especially ones that are incumbents who have been there for a long time, like Elizabeth Warren.
Well, of course, there's this idea floating around Washington now, new for some, that Bitcoiners are single-issue voters. Matt, are you a single-issue Bitcoin voter?
My single issue is freedom, and I've yet to see a presidential candidate in my lifetime run on that issue, and hopefully that changes soon.
P, Christian, your thoughts? Is Donald Trump right now competing for your vote?
Yeah, I mean, you want to go P or I'll go? So, yeah, I mean, I think that, of course, he's competing for everyone's vote. For me personally, I have not been someone who has voted for a mainstream political candidate for president ever in my life. So, if he can say the right things and he can make the assurances that I find to be credible for Bitcoin, it could be something that I can consider. And I think that there are a lot of Bitcoiners who are in my same shoes, a lot of people who are millennials who are in my same shoes, who have been disillusioned from the existing political conversation, and they are excited about Bitcoin, and maybe he can sway us.
Well, there's a lot of talk here about Bitcoin as a partisan issue. I'm going to back up and talk about Bitcoin as a generational issue, maybe something that's just appealing to young people. The old timers don't get it. P, your thoughts on Bitcoin as a generational voting issue?
Absolutely. I think it's extremely relevant, even more so than before in this election. We've never seen Bitcoin discussed so openly, so consistently in an election cycle. And I think that's a testament to how it is becoming even more part of the mainstream conversation. It's really, it's entered the Overton window. I think, it's huge.
We're waiting for history to be made on stage. The eyes of the world on Nashville, Tennessee. People rapt about what Donald J. Trump might announce on stage. Now even more expectations of a special guest. Guys, what are your thoughts on the special guest? Who it might be? Who can take the expectations and the sentiment here even higher than it is?
I mean, Pete might hate me for this, but
are we going to say Elon?
The special guest is worth it. I think it'll be worth the wait. We personally know who the special guest is. It's going to be well worth it.
Well, I do not know, and I actually heard, I have a good authority, that it's actually a sort of genetic chimera that's been constructed of sort of a combination of Santa Claus and Elon Musk and also Abraham Lincoln combined into one.
Right.
Is that correct?
I think that is who Satoshi Nakamoto is.
You're not supposed to tell them ahead of time.
I'm so sorry.
Well, let's back up a little
right?
bit and talk about Satoshi Nakamoto, maybe in context of this historic moment. We've seen history on the stage before. Maybe this will be the most historic announcement we've ever seen at a Bitcoin conference coming up. Satoshi Nakamoto, of course, the founder, creator of Bitcoin. We know this individual is very highly motivated, a cypherpunk. He believed in privacy, believed in freedom. Matt, your take on what he would make of the idea of this conference being so political?
I imagine if Satoshi's out there somewhere, that the last 15 years of Bitcoin has just absolutely blown his mind, because it has just been amazing to witness personally. It has blown my mind over and over again. It is astounding to watch both the pace and progress of this movement. And I really do think that we could see here the beginning of the next great American century. And I'm humbled to be sitting here right now as that happens.
Talking about Satoshi Nakamoto, this Bitcoin movement was once an idea in someone's head, something that didn't exist. Christian, your thoughts, your perspective?
Yeah, I mean, look, I agree with Matt. Likely Satoshi himself was not even bullish enough, but he did know that he was building an economic incentive system that was, if it did catch on, it'd be worth getting some, right? So that's the exact quote. And Pete, I mean, I would love to turn it to you. I've called you the world's Satoshi expert. You've done incredible research into everything Satoshi. I know you may be even writing a book one day. I mean, tell us, what do you think Satoshi might think?
Well, look, I think Satoshi was a person of intent. We know that because of the way he's architected this system, right? Obviously, building it with so many qualities, the 21 million limits, the cap that ensures that monetary freedom was available for everyone. But I think with Satoshi, look, if he's here, I think he is probably marveling at what he's achieved, right? I don't think he could have known, but it's important to kind of look at the context of where he came from, right? He saw an internet that was politicized. He foresaw that the technology that we now use to connect could be turned against us. The kinds of things we're experiencing today with deplatforming and privacy, these were all things that were of concern to the community he came from, the cypherpunks. And I think it's very interesting to watch, really, in the headline maybe here, is that the cypherpunks have entered mainstream politics, maybe with the arrival of Donald J. Trump here today. Do you think that's a fair categorization, Matt?
I mean, I think the cypherpunks have been trailblazers in terms of political freedom in the United States specifically, but also globally. They were leaders in the fight in the early 90s for encryption to be the standard around the world and be easily accessible. This idea that you write code and you opt out of corrupt politics in order to achieve your goals, but also at the same time, you engage with local politicians, you engage with ethical governments in order to protect yourself and protect the movement. That was a twofold win in the 90s. That was a twofold win because the code got distributed, the code was sound, it worked really well, but also that governments weren't actively attacking encryption. And yes, there are attacks in different places around the world. We've seen them recently in the UK and Europe, which is really not great to see because privacy at its core, it protects every single human on the planet. The ability to selectively reveal yourself to the world. But at the same time, if you look back at these last 30 years, I think the early cypherpunks would be quite proud that there hasn't been major transgressions, at least among Western democracies, against encryption and the different open source tools that empower freedom.
Well, I think one of the most fascinating things, Satoshi categorizing Bitcoin as an alternative to central banking, an alternative to government-run monetary systems. And here we have governments coming into the conversation. Christian.
Yeah, well, I mean, ultimately, every single government on the planet runs a website. Every single government on the planet uses email. Bitcoin is actually a protocolized version of money and value and property that we can use. And it actually delivers property rights to places where it was not even possible to happen under government. So ultimately, I think that it is extremely bullish that now governments are once again bending the knee, looking at technology, and then ultimately having to adopt it. And I think that is Bitcoin's sound game theory.
We are waiting for history at Bitcoin 2024. We're waiting for Donald J. Trump to take the stage. We're waiting to unveil the special guest. And of course, right now we've got a word from our sponsors. We'll be right back on the main stage, bringing you news, highlights, analysis until history is made. Stay with us.
So what is money and how does it get value? Paper money has value because someone says so. Bitcoin is different. It's like digital gold. It has value for many of the reasons gold does, but that's only the start. It has a limited supply, only 21 million, so no one can decide to just print more. Because no central authority controls it, it can never be shut down.
To be free and flexible and creative was really essential to what I wanted to make, and I didn't find a platform that did that other than Wix. Hi, I'm Liv. I run Double Bricks, a print and design studio in Brighton, UK. I chose Wix for my business because of its massive scope for functionality and freedom of creation. Everything I create at Double is visual. So for me, those customizable elements like the hovers and the little animations, the additional bits of coding, the physicality of the actual process of printing really reflects me. From a business perspective, it was really exciting. Directing people to that site was going to give them everything that they needed.
monetizing excess hydro energy in Paraguay, turning waste into value by reducing landfill emissions, and recycling data center heat to warm communities in Finland. With Mara, we're building the base layer of a sustainable future. To learn more, visit mara.com.
Dollar will dramatically lose its purchasing power. The more they print, the more it gets diluted. Who it's good for is the people at the tippy top.
Because in order to keep the system going, they have to keep printing money.
And Bitcoin is that tool that allows us to beat the money printer.
Bitcoin is powerful in a way that is money that does not discriminate.
Bitcoin is built by the people for the people.
Bitcoin is digital gold. Bitcoin is digital gold. Bitcoin is digital gold. Is digital gold. Is digital gold.
Welcome back to the Mara News Desk, powered by Bitcoin Magazine. I'm Pete Rizzo, editor at Bitcoin Magazine. The script is out the window. The main event of Bitcoin 2024 was minutes away. We're waiting for Donald J. Trump and potentially a special guest. Expectations are high. Strategic Bitcoin reserve potentially on the table. RFK yesterday making history with an aggressive policy plan, calling on America to stockpile 4 million Bitcoin. Michael Saylor of MicroStrategy making the same appeal. We've got a new round of panelists to discuss as we await history to happen on the Nakamoto stage. I've got Matt Odell to my left, founder of 1031 Ventures. We've got Mr. Mike Germano, president of Bitcoin Magazine, and Q Gahimi. You know him as our roving reporter on the stream. He's been around the venue, talking with people, getting into the expectations, the insights, everything that's been going on. Obviously, a big announcement on stage before the waiting period that we're now entering, that Donald J. Trump is now a Bitcoiner. The Bitcoin community banding together to gift 1 Bitcoin to Donald J. Trump. Mike, your reaction to this news?
Rizzo, I really appreciate you calling on me first as I came running over here from the main stage.
Well, that's because you know what happened in the room.
Bitcoin is digital gold. Bitcoin is digital gold. Bitcoin is digital gold. Is digital gold. Is digital gold.
There's people outside the
Bitcoin is digital gold. Bitcoin is digital gold. Bitcoin is digital gold. Is digital.
Got his Secret Service detail, which he deserved. But obviously, they're paying a little bit more attention with President Trump now at Secret Service. So, we have our expo hall, we have all the main stages. So, going through Secret Service, you actually have to go through TSA. So I don't think Bitcoiners would ever expect having to go through TSA. Matt Odell's a big fan of TSA. So
Proof
he's really
that
excited
election 2024 has come to Bitcoin 2024. Q, you're joining us from the floor. You've been covering all aspects of this venue. Maybe take us into what's happening outside. Right now, we're just seeing a room of energized people looking at TV screens lined up to try to get in to see Donald J. Trump, to see this special guest waiting. What are you seeing?
I mean, look, we got in here very early in the morning, and from the start, before doors were even open, people were lining up in anticipation of this talk. People immediately, they got in, they didn't want to do anything else. They went straight to the screenings, went down into the Nakamoto stage, and I saw people with books. I saw people prepared to camp to make sure that they can just stay there all day to have seats to watch this historic event transpire. Never in any of the Bitcoin conferences that I've been to have I seen anything like this. We're making history today.
Of course, the waiting is building expectation. Is this raising the stakes for what Donald Trump has to say on stage? Mike.
He's a showman. Donald Trump's a showman. right? I mean, I'm expecting it to come out with like money, 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 money. Like this is, this guy, he's an apprentice. He's teaching us a lot. He's a showman. I think he's building up the hype. And right now, I want to point out Ron Paul, who's a
just on
doctor,
stage.
the good doctor. He kind of ran as fast as he could over there, and he's in the hall with everybody. He got a wondrous applause when he came in. And right now, we're actually finally the live stream is being broadcasted to everybody in that room. So we want to thank everybody, for waiting. We are working on it. There's obviously a lot of security, which is exciting, and we are definitely not buying time up here. We're taking it very seriously.
Well,
We
we're
have this
really
all
working
planned.
through the issues. We're talking about the policy proposal that Trump might put forth. Of course, already a slew of public statements from Donald Trump since his reversal earlier this year on Bitcoin and cryptocurrency. Of course, his big issues, energy independence, coming out against CBDCs, recognizing that we're a growing industry and constituency, and really maybe the biggest one, he doesn't want to lose a foreign advantage that we might have in the international stage. Matt, why don't you take us in?
I want to see the president lead us forward on the next generation of American success. I want to see America become the best country in the world to run a Bitcoin business. I want to see America become the best place in the world to be an open source developer. And I want to see America start stacking the hardest asset that the world has ever seen in a big way.
Well, a lot of talk that this might really be a 1990s moment for Bitcoin, really the internet becoming mainstream during that decade, breaking through and with legislation in America, really powering economic productivity for the next decade. Q, your thoughts on how what Donald J. Trump might say on stage might compare to this time period where we know America embraced innovation and could do so again?
I mean, we are bearing witness to the game theory playing out in real time. When Jack Mallers announced El Salvador adopting Bitcoin in 22, it was an incredible moment. The euphoria in that room sends chills down my spine just talking about it. I could not imagine that just 2 years later we would even be remotely having this conversation about America potentially having some sort of adoption, looking towards it. Germano's getting jumpy. Go ahead.
The only thing I think we're talking about what Trump's going to do. There's one thing that Trump needs to do. The one thing he promised is he needs to free Ross on day one.
Right.
That is the one thing that he needs to do. And my hope is when he gets in, he free Rosses on day one. And then when we look at Bitcoin 2025 in Las Vegas, there's only one person that everyone's going to want to see speak,
Right.
and that would be Ross.
So
So
let's
I
talk
hope
about Ross Ulbricht, founder of Silk Road. Of course, the reason that many people became Bitcoiners. Maybe, Matt, you can speak to Ross and his importance to this community and why so many people champion his cause.
I mean, I think at the core of the issue here is Ross has been in jail, often in solitary confinement for 15 years now. It was a nonviolent crime. He was running a Bitcoin-powered drug marketplace, and I think it crosses party lines, the fact that he has done more than enough time served. President Trump has promised to commute his sentence day one. And that's a key point there. Not pardon his sentence, not say he was not guilty, but commute it for time served. I would really like to see that. I will say that that falls under the context of believing a presidential candidate's campaign promises. I will say a lot of other things President Trump can announce today. Actually, he doesn't even need to fulfill for it to become a self-fulfilling prophecy, which is part of the reason it makes it such a crazy moment. And the fact alone that President Trump has come down to Nashville to the largest Bitcoin conference in the world to talk about Bitcoin and talk about innovation in America is a massive achievement in itself that not enough people appreciate at this moment, but they will appreciate in 2 decades. They will appreciate in 3 decades. They will look back on it and be like, that was it. That was the paradigm shift right there.
We're waiting for Donald J. Trump to take the main Nakamoto stage with a special guest. Of course, we're talking about something more somber, the freedom of Ross Ulbricht at stake in election 2024, meaningful for a country and a community, but also meaningfully for family. Mike, I know you've spent time with some of Ross's family, know the cause, know the movement. Q, this is something that people who have reported on the scene know well, the tale of Lynn Ulbricht and the family. Mike, Q, I'm wondering if you could speak to that.
I mean, look, as someone who's a parent myself, to think about not being able to see your kid is a thought I don't want to have. And so when you see Lynn and she keeps coming every year, it makes you want to do it a little bit more. It makes you do the research. It makes you be willing to wear the free t-shirts, the 10,000 t-shirts we have outside. Everybody in that auditorium right now who's wearing a t-shirt, right? They all want to see that happen too. They get to be part of this movement. And if you didn't have, a mom like Lynn, I don't think this movement would be here. And, I would like to say, even at Bitcoin Magazine, every single employee, Free Ross seems to creep up on everything. I want to give a shout out to Tommy. Tommy, our resident crazy designer, who pushes Free Ross everywhere.
Right. This has been a core advocacy push from Bitcoin Magazine. Any issue, if you go online, subscribe now, you'll find a Free Ross ad. So, Mike, maybe as the publisher of Bitcoin Magazine, you can tell us why we've sent that message to so many people through our magazine.
Well, number one, it's because the magazine team always swaps out an ad and puts a Free Ross ad in anyway and doesn't tell me. So I don't have a choice. But I think that's what it means for, once again, Ross helped a lot of us maybe buy our first Bitcoin for didn't matter what reason, right? And more importantly, it's a movement that is something we're excited to get behind. And as a publisher of a print magazine, we want to just thank all the people who subscribe to it. If you didn't do that, we wouldn't have had the money to do the long form journalism. We wouldn't have had the money to put on this event. So we really appreciate those who believe in our cause too. And so we'd have to believe in a cause like freeing Ross.
Moments away from Donald J. Trump taking the stage, we're told a special guest is on the way. We want to back up. This is a historic moment. People from around the country coming in for the first time. Mike, you mentioned Dr. Ron Paul on this stage earlier today, speaking to the hundreds of thousands of people watching, really about his personal life, his crusade against central banking, about the monetary policy issues that are affecting America, and of course, the economy. Such a big deal this year. People just feel like they can't get ahead. The TikTok videos.
Bitcoin is digital gold. Bitcoin is digital gold. Bitcoin is digital gold. Is digital gold. Is digital gold. Bitcoin is digital gold.
I just want to say
Bitcoin is digital gold. Bitcoin is digital gold.
In the American government and across the American political spectrum, the priority be placed that America becomes a place where code is protected speech. I believe the Constitution already protects it. I believe that we have developers right now.
Bitcoin is digital gold.
Notably being samurai developers.
Bitcoin is digital gold. Bitcoin is digital gold. Is digital gold. Is digital gold. Bitcoin is digital gold. Bitcoin is digital gold. Bitcoin is digital gold. Is digital gold. Is digital gold. Bitcoin is digital gold. Bitcoin is digital gold. Bitcoin is digital gold. Is digital gold. Is digital gold. Bitcoin is digital gold. Bitcoin is digital gold. Bitcoin is digital gold. Is digital gold. Is digital gold. Bitcoin is digital gold.
But the fact of the matter is, we have such a financial privilege to be in America, in the country that has the global reserve currency. Most of the world, the majority of the world, is unbanked, and Bitcoin is an opportunity for them to have access to money and store their wealth in a way that they just don't have.
We're going to go to a quick break now before we're bringing up another special guest, and we are still awaiting history. It's coming, folks. Donald J. Trump in the building at the Bitcoin Conference in Music City Center here in Nashville, Tennessee. Stay with us. We'll be right back on X, YouTube, and Rumble. Stay tuned.
The Bitcoin Conference. We started with a dream to build a community focused on Bitcoin. It all started in 2019
Bitcoin is digital
in the heart of San Francisco.
gold.
The first major
Bitcoin is digital gold. Bitcoin is digital gold. Is digital gold. Is digital gold. Bitcoin is digital gold. Bitcoin is digital gold.
Bitcoin gathering in the world, leading hyper-Bitcoinization. While Miami was incredible, it was time to set the stage for Bitcoin in a new city. So we took the conference on the road. Nashville, Tennessee was the obvious choice, a city known for music and freedom. Next year, the conference is hitting the road again in search of the next global stage. We are headed to a new city next year. With hyper-Bitcoinization right around the corner, we have no plans to take the foot off the gas. Find out where we are headed next. Scan the QR code and be at the main stage for the big announcement.
This is Mara, taking Bitcoin mining to the cutting edge of energy solutions. We're monetizing excess hydro energy in Paraguay, turning waste into value by reducing landfill emissions and recycling data center heat to warm communities in Finland. With Mara, we're building the base layer of a sustainable future. To learn more, visit mara.com.
Anyone can be a part of the Bitcoin economy. It's like a good church.
Because it's an ethical ideology, there are many people that feel very spiritual about it.
I think that Bitcoin has those characteristics to be not just the most Islamic form of money, but the most Jewish and most Christian form of money as well.
Bitcoin is just another step in the technological development of how we can serve God better.
It is trying to remove politics from money.
Bitcoin can make the world a better place.
Bitcoin is digital gold. Bitcoin is digital gold. Bitcoin is digital gold. Is digital gold. Is digital gold. Bitcoin is digital gold. Bitcoin is digital gold. Bitcoin is digital gold. Is digital gold. Is digital gold. Bitcoin is digital gold. Bitcoin is digital gold. Bitcoin is digital gold. Is digital gold. Is digital gold. Bitcoin is digital gold. Bitcoin is digital gold. Bitcoin is digital gold. Is digital gold. Is digital gold. Bitcoin is digital gold. Bitcoin is digital. A 1, 2, 3, hit it. I got my Web3 dictionary. Love to learn about the metaverse, NFTs and Bitcoin. I've got my NFTs piled to the sky, and they're giving back to the world. Don't deny. Everybody's got what they need. Yeah. Thank you. I got my Web3 dictionary. Yeah. A 1, 2, 3, hit it. It's a layer to roll up. 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 Why don't you roll up? Let's roll up. Why don't you roll up? Let's roll up, 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 why don't you roll up? It's a layer to roll up. 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 Why don't you roll up? Let's roll up. Why don't you roll up? Let's roll.
New era of layer 2 life.
ETH is money, wallets and Web3, NFT meetup, you and me. DeFi is the frontier.
New era of layer 2 life.
ETH is money, wallets and Web3, NFT meetup, you and me. DeFi is the frontier. Web3 journeys far and near, far and near. Where do we go from here? Regenerating the world. NFT meets metaverse. Fundamentals matter. Let's go. A Web3 browser, can we build it? Share my royalties. Next in crypto. An open economy, Web3 bet, governed by the community. DeFi gathering, build the dip, the user experience. No time to lose, learn to earn. NFT is here, build your resilience. Invest crypto tax free. Go to market journeys, data, NFTs, and Web3. How the three intersect. Let's go. The work to earn paradigm, beyond art, NFTs with utility, driving mainstream blockchain adoption, wallets and Web3, la 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 la. NFTs in the creator economy, layer 2 roll-ups, crypto is risky, Bitcoin is digital gold, swap and stake, got crypto brain, Web3 dictionary, NFTs unlock self-expression, building a beauty empire. Anything is possible, your gateway to the new web. NFTs in your wallet, Web3 in your pocket. What are ENS domains? From DeFi to NFT marketplace, pull together, let's go. ETH is money, yeah. ETH is money, honey. ETH is money, yeah. ETH is money, honey. A new era of layer 2 life. Let's go. Here we go, here we go. ETH is money. ETH is money. Welcome to your virtual world, Digital 2020, June 3rd to July 3rd. Go ahead, register so you can get your free wearable. Go ahead, you have a POAP to mint. It won't cost you anything because you're going to get so much back. ETH is money. ETH is money, yeah. ETH is money, yeah. Welcome to the new world.
New era of layer 2 life.
ETH is money, wallets and Web3, NFT meetup, you and me. DeFi is the frontier. Web3 journeys far and near, far and near. Where do we go from here? Regenerating the world. NFT meets metaverse. Fundamentals matter. Let's go. A Web3 browser, can we build it? Share my royalties. Next in crypto. An open economy, Web3 bet, governed by the community. DeFi gathering, build the dip, the user experience. No time to lose, learn to earn. NFT is here, build your resilience. Invest crypto tax free. Go to market journeys, data, NFTs and Web3, how the three intersect. Let's go. The work to earn paradigm beyond art, NFTs with utility, driving mainstream blockchain adoption, wallets and Web3, la 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 la. NFTs and the creator economy, layer 2 roll-ups. Crypto is risky, Bitcoin is digital gold. Swap and stake, got crypto brain, Web3 dictionary. NFTs unlock self-expression, building a beauty empire. Anything is possible, your gateway to the new web. NFTs in your wallet, Web3 in your pocket. What are ENS domains? From DeFi to NFT marketplace, pull together, let's go. ETH is money, yeah. ETH is money, honey. ETH is money, yeah. ETH is money, honey. A new era of layer 2 life, let's go. Here we go, here we go. ETH is money. ETH is money. Welcome to your virtual world, Digital 2020, June 3rd to July 3rd. Go ahead, register so you can get your free wearable. Go ahead, you have a POAP to mint. It won't cost you anything because you're gonna get so much back. ETH is money. ETH is money, yeah. ETH is money, yeah. Welcome to the new world. New era of layer 2 life. ETH is money, wallets and Web3, NFT meetup, you and me. DeFi is the frontier, Web3 journeys far and near, far and near. Where do we go from here? Regenerating the world. NFT meets metaverse, fundamentals matter. Let's go. A Web3 browser, can we build it? Share my royalties, next in crypto. An open economy, Web3 bet, governed by the community. DeFi gathering, build the dip, the user experience. No time to lose, learn to earn. NFT is here, build your resilience, invest crypto tax-free, go to market journeys, data, NFTs and Web3, how the three intersect, let's go. The work to earn paradigm, beyond art, NFTs with utility, driving mainstream blockchain adoption, wallets and Web3, la 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 la. NFTs and the creator economy, layer 2 roll-ups. Crypto is risky, Bitcoin is digital gold. Swap and stake, got crypto brain, Web3 dictionary. NFTs unlock self-expression, building a beauty empire. Anything is possible, your gateway to the new web. NFTs in your wallet, Web3 in your pocket. What are ENS domains? From DeFi to NFT marketplace.
Today filled with respect and admiration for what the Bitcoin community has achieved. It's incredible, actually. I sort of say to my sons, it's like incredible because they know so much about it. They're so aware of it, much more so than people that are a little bit older. But I say this is the steel industry of 100 years ago. It really is. I think you're just in your infancy. I can see it happening. In just 15 years, Bitcoin has gone from merely an idea posted anonymously on an internet message board to being the 9th most valuable asset anywhere in the world. Can you believe that? Is that right? That's a big deal. Think of that. It's already bigger than ExxonMobil. Soon it will be surpassing the entire market cap of silver. It's not bad. How about gold? How about gold? Let's go gold. And one day it probably will overtake gold, but based on the way it's going now, it could very well be a possibility. There's never been anything like it. And I don't think you've ever seen anything like it. And most people have no idea what the hell it is. You know that, right? So what happens when they figure it out? That's going to really be something. Bitcoin is not just a marvel of technology. As you know, it's a miracle of cooperation and human achievement. And a lot of relationships that are formed. I just did a meeting, a roundtable with a lot of the leaders, and it's amazing. There's a obviously there's competition, but there's a relationship, there's a friendship that's developed. I see the option, they want to kill each other. These guys have a great feeling, very smart people too. Congratulations on all that you've accomplished. This room is amazing. The people in this room, high IQ individuals. I'm running against a low IQ individual, her. I'm not even talking about him, her. I got a low IQ individual. The reason I've come to address the Bitcoin community today can be summed up in two very simple words: America first. Because if we don't do it, China's going to be doing, others are going to be doing it. Let's do it and do it right. My vision is for an America that dominates. We have the best economy, the highest standard of living.
Bitcoin is digital gold. Bitcoin is digital gold. Bitcoin is digital gold. Is digital gold. Is digital gold. Bitcoin is digital gold.
And we want them to be successful.
Bitcoin is
China to be successful, but we have to be the most successful. That's what's gonna happen. I want the United States to be first in technology, first in science, first in manufacturing, first in artificial intelligence, and first in space. You know, at MIT, my uncle was a professor there, Dr. John Trump. He would have fit in with this room very nicely, actually. That's why I mention it. And I believe he was the longest serving professor in the history of MIT. He graduated. We have a very intelligent family, actually. He graduated tremendously. I think he has 3 different degrees, but they said, would you like to stay on, John, and be a professor? Well, I've got a lot of offers, I assume he said, but I've got a lot of offers. Well, we'd like, he was there for, I believe, 41 years. When I was in the White House, the head of MIT came to see me, and they presented me with a book on my uncle. He was a legendary guy in the academic world and in the world of MIT. So I understand a lot about what you're doing, and I have great respect for highly intelligent people. And you are highly intelligent. America's destiny is to lead our rivals in everything and to surrender our industries to no one, You know, some of you are involved with AI, but you also have the same thing. You need a thing called electricity. You need a lot of electricity. You know, AI needs to be really dominant, and China can do it much easier. We have environmental impact statements to do, but we're going to do things that nobody thought were possible. You need tremendous amounts of electricity. You need double the electricity of the entire electricity that we have right now in the United States to dominate. And we'll get that done. Who would think we can get that done? But we're going to get it done. We'll be having power plants built. at the sites. We'll be releasing people from certain ridiculous requirements, and we'll be using fossil fuel to make electricity because we're going to have to. We'll be using nuclear. We'll be doing it in an environmentally friendly way. But we will be creating so much electricity that you'll be saying, please, please, President, we don't want any more electricity. We can't stand it. You'll be begging me, no more electricity, sir. We have enough. We have enough. You know, in the Midwest, they just opened, it was very interesting, they just opened up 2 chargers, you know, a charger for the electric cars. And you know, I love Elon. He's great. He endorsed me and great endorsement and everything else. But not everybody has to have an electric car. I told him that. So we're going to get rid of that mandate, if you don't mind. Some people want gasoline-propelled cars. Some people want a hybrid. And some people like an electric car. They're great. I think they're great. I think what he's done is great. And I think he understands it. I guess he probably wouldn't have endorsed me. He knows where I am on this. But he did. And it's just like they did these chargers in the Midwest. There are 8 of them. They spent $9 billion to build 8 chargers to charge up a car. And at that rate, it would cost approximately $12 trillion to put the charges around. Somehow that's not working. The country would have to file for Chapter 11. We'll do a chapter, you know, it's called Chapter 7 instead of a Chapter 11, but it's the equivalent. No, we have to use our brain. We have to be, we are the party of common sense, okay? We have to have common sense. But what we do have to do is we have to produce tremendous electric for AI and for all of the other things, including the things that you're doing. And we'll get it produced, and we're going to get it produced fast, or we're not going to be able to compete with China and other countries. So we're going to get it produced fast. This afternoon, I'm laying out my plan to ensure that the United States will be the crypto capital of the planet and the Bitcoin superpower of the world, and we'll get it done. If crypto is going to define the future, I want to be mined, minted, and made in the USA. It's going to be. It's not going to be made anywhere else. And if Bitcoin is going to the moon, as we say, it's going to the moon, I want America to be the nation that leads the way. And that's what's going to happen. No, you're going to be very happy with me. You're going to be so happy. You're going to say he's the greatest guy. That's why I'm proud to be the first major party nominee in American history to accept donations in Bitcoin and crypto. And they've made a lot of them, I might tell you, and I appreciate it. Since we made that announcement on May 21st, we've already raised $25 million, much of it in Bitcoin, crypto, and others that are very, very good also. But as you know, our excitement about the future of Bitcoin and crypto could not be more difficult from the approach of our opponents. Can't be, look, our opponents have gone a difficult route. They're going old-fashioned stuff. We're going to take it right down the middle. We are so different from anybody else in terms of a campaign. First of all, we understand it. They don't understand it. They are blocking your path. They're blocking your way. But I've made it a lot easier for you because the SEC has been very, very tough on you. And now they see that you've embraced me. All of a sudden, people that were under investigation, they're being let go. They're saying, oh, no, we don't want to do that. We love crypto. Let me tell you, if they win this election, every one of you will be gone. They will be vicious. They will be ruthless. They will do things that you wouldn't believe. But right now, because of me, they're leaving you alone. So please say thank you, President Trump. Thank you very much. And the reason they're doing that is I've heard from some of your great geniuses that talk to me about this subject. I've heard from Vivek. 175 million people in some form are involved with this world of crypto and Bitcoin and all of the others, 175 million. So when they heard that, they said, let's be nice to them, at least until after the election. So I've taken a lot of praise. People are very happy today that about 3 months ago weren't so thrilled. For 3.5 years, is that right? Look, he just said that's right. And you know it's right. For 3.5 years, the current administration has waged a war on crypto and Bitcoin like nobody's ever seen before. For those who work in this industry, they target your banks, they choke off your financial services. Have people seen that? Yes? Yeah, they have. Plenty of hands up. They block ordinary Americans from transferring money to your exchanges. They slander you as criminals. But that happened to me too, because I said the election was rigged. He said the election was rigged. He should spend the rest of his life in jail for making that statement. Of course, they say it about us, and it's okay, right? No. And by the way, we're doing very well in the election. We lost a candidate recently, crooked Joe Biden. And I thought, we lost this wonderful person. He's actually a terrible human being, if you want to know the truth, so don't feel sorry. And we have another he's the worst human being. And I sort of made an analogy last night. Last night, think of this, I was speaking in front of a very powerful and very strong, very religious group, Christians, evangelicals, Christians. And then today I come in front of Bitcoin, and now I'm going to Minnesota to do a rally. You think my life is so great, don't you, huh? But I cover a lot of territory. I go from religion to Bitcoin to a rally. And I don't get it mixed up like other people do. Where they come out and they say, may God bless everybody involved in the Bitcoin world. But actually, we mean that because you need blessing, because you've got to do something very spectacular. But we had an incredible time last night talking to Christians, largely Christians, a Christian group. And this is so great. And then writing, and that's what they want to do, and that's what they're there right now. You have the SEC. You know what they're doing, obliterating Bitcoin. The reason could not be more clear because Bitcoin stands for freedom, sovereignty, and independence from government, coercion, and control. The Biden-Harris administration's repression of crypto and Bitcoin is wrong, and it's very bad for our country. It's really quite un-American. As you know, 6 days ago, we officially defeated the worst president in the history of the United States. I believe he was the worst president in the history of the United States. Think of it. Millions and millions of people have come into our country. Think of it. Insane asylums, mental institutions, they've come in as terrorists. We have the largest number of terrorists coming into our country right now. The same people that you just heard about from Israel that did that in Israel, they're coming in and nobody checks them. Nobody knows what's going on. We have no idea what's going on. They've lost control of our country and only bad things can happen. So it's not going to be that way. We're not going to let that happen. We're beating them and we're beating them badly. And we have to make sure that we do. We need to do it for our country. And you can't just be a fighter, lose the fight, or woman, but in this case, a man. He's losing the fight. He's down by 15, 16, 17 points. They say that you're not going to win, Joe. You got to get out. He didn't want to get out. He said, I'm not getting out. He said, you're getting out. He said, I'm not getting out. I got 14 million votes. I'm not getting out. They said, if you're not getting out, we're going to institute the 25th Amendment on your mental competence. He said, like I said before, I think I'm going to get out. Okay? And they got him out. But it's like, think of this. You fight, you're in a campaign. You spend a lot of money, a lot of time, a lot of effort, and he's losing. And then they say, let's take him out of the fight. We'll put a new fighter in there. The new fighter is her, probably my second choice. He will always be my first choice, but she'd be my second choice. And again, if we don't win this race, and I know you're not that political, but you have to be political because your whole thing, I mean, you have a lot of politics involved in what you do. If we don't win this race, this country could be finished as we know it. This country is going to be in bad shape, and we have to be in there. We have to fight, and we have to win. And I pledge to the Bitcoin community that the day I take the oath of office, Joe Biden, Kamala Harris's anti-crypto crusade will be over. It will end. It'll be done. It'll be done. The moment I'm sworn in, the persecution stops and the weaponization ends against your industry. Again, if we don't win this race, and I know you're not that political, but you have to be political because your whole thing, I mean, you have a lot of politics involved in what you do. If we don't win this race, this country could be finished as we know it. This country is going to be in bad shape, and we have to be in there. We have to fight, and we have to win. And I pledge to the Bitcoin community that the day I take the oath of office, Joe Biden, Kamala Harris's anti-crypto crusade will be over. It will end. It'll be done. It'll be done. The moment I'm sworn in, the persecution stops and the weaponization ends against your industry. We're not going to let that happen. And no longer will your government sit by and watch as Bitcoin jobs and businesses flee to other countries because America's laws are too unclear and too tough and too angry and too. We will keep each and every Bitcoin job in the United States of America. That's what we're going to be doing. Upon taking office, I will immediately appoint a Bitcoin and crypto presidential advisory council. Would anybody like to be on that particular council? Please raise your hand. Their task will be to design transparent regulatory guidance for the benefit of the entire industry, and they will get it done in 100 days. We will have regulations, but from now on, the industry, people that want to make it clear and simple, straightforward and fair, people that want to see your industry thrive, not dive. Next, I will immediately order the Treasury Department and other federal agencies to cease and desist all steps necessary, because, you know, there's a thing going on in your industry. They want to move the creation of a central bank digital currency. It's over. Forget it. CBDC. There will never be a CBDC while I'm president of the United States. And I will always defend the right to self-custody. Self-custody. You're going to have a great industry. You're going to have a great industry. Rights, privacy. We're going to we're going to go back to the old days when we were a nation that was building, not a nation that was eating itself alive from within. As part of our effort to provide regulatory clarity, we will create a framework to enable the safe, responsible expansion of stable coins. Do you know what a stable coin is? Allowing us to extend the dominance of the U.S. dollar to new frontiers all around the world. America will be richer, the world will be better, and there will be billions and billions of people brought into crypto economy and storing their savings in Bitcoin. So that's the way it is. That's pretty much the way it is. Those who say that Bitcoin is a threat to the dollar have the story exactly backwards. I believe it is exactly back. Bitcoin is not threatening the dollar. The behavior of the current U.S. government is really threatening the dollar. The danger to our financial future does not come from crypto. It comes from Washington, D.C. It comes from trillions of dollars in waste, rampant inflation, and open borders while giving welfare and free health care to all of the illegal aliens that are pouring into our country by the millions and millions and millions. It comes from printing hundreds of billions of dollars to fund endless wars overseas while our cities are like combat zones here at home. 2 weeks ago in Chicago, 117 people were shot and 17 died. Afghanistan doesn't have anything like that. You know, you think about places. Look at what's happening with our cities. What's happening in the last 3 years, last 3.5 years. Nobody's ever seen anything like it. Think of it. 117 over 4th of July weekend. 117 people were shot and 17 died. This is the United States of America? I don't think so. By the way, when I was president, we had no wars. We had no new wars. We didn't start it. Remember when Hillary said, he'll start wars. Look at his personality. No, I said, my personality will keep us out of wars. But we finished off some of the old ones like ISIS, which they said would take 5 years to do, maybe more. We did it in 4 weeks. We beat ISIS in 4, because we have a great military. And it's not a woke military, by the way. Maybe some of the people on top are woke, but this is not a woke. I got to see that first when I looked at what they did or what they did for me, they were unbelievable. They did things that nobody thought were possible. Our real generals and our soldiers, there's no woke. They're trying to get them to be woke, but these people are not going to go woke. I can guarantee you that. With your support, in November, we will restore and we will restore common sense to our nation's capital. Because ultimately, it is about, it's not, are you conservative? Are you liberal? Are you progressive? They like progressive. It sounds so nice, right? It'll destroy our country. It's actually become a terrible word. It'll destroy our country. But it's not about that. It's about common sense. We want to bring common sense back in. This is all common sense that we're talking about today. And Bitcoin and crypto will skyrocket like never before, even beyond your expectations. And you are the people that are doing it. As we stop the war on crypto, we will immediately, and we'll do this very quickly, begin to build our economy, because when America is prospering, Bitcoin is soaring and it'll go up with it. We had the greatest economy ever, and we will soon have it again. Under the Trump administration, the typical middle-class family income rose by $6,000 a year. People don't like mentioning that. America had more money to save than at any time in many decades. As a result, during my 4 years in office, now you have to listen to these numbers. These numbers are like beautiful. And I don't want to repeat myself. Listen to these numbers. As a result, during my 4 years in office, Bitcoin surged by 3,900%, from $898 the day I took office to $35,900 the day I left. That was the biggest jump, I guess, in just about any industry. Think of that. Now compare that to just after 3.5 years of Biden and Harris, adjusted for inflation, Bitcoin is up 50%. Now, 50% sounds good, but not when you're comparing it to almost 4,000%, right? 50%. You know, normally you say, oh, that sounds pretty good. Let's not put that into the speech. No, 50% is not good. When people can't afford groceries or rent, they have no savings to store in Bitcoin. This administration caused the biggest inflation in the history of our country. And that's what's happened. Our people are being wiped out. From the very first day we take the White House, we will replace the Biden-Harris economic stagnation with a brand new Trump economic boom. You're going to have a tremendous boom. You know, you have a lot of great analysts out there. Scott, I'm talking about you, Scott, one of the greatest of all, and others that say the stock market's going up because they think Trump is going to be elected. And if Trump isn't elected, this country's going to go into a depression, the likes of which you had in 1929. And I hope that's not true, but I can understand it, and I can understand what they're saying. The stock market gain, they think, is because looks like we're going to win the election. And I don't know what's going to happen with the election. You know, they cheat like hell, and I don't know what's going to happen. But if we win it, this country is going to be boomtown. It's going to be booming like it never boomed before. The current administration's economic plan includes trillions in new spending and $5 trillion tax hikes. They want to increase taxes by $5 trillion. They want the expiration of the Trump tax cuts to take place. They want a wealth confiscation tax so that when you make all of your money that you're going to make and all of the people you're going to employ, they want to take away your money in the form of a first-time ever tax and a gigantic capital gains tax that will exceed substantially in many states over 50%. My plan is the opposite. We will lift the workers and we will create savers out of so many people, and we will reward success. We will not punish success. They want to punish success. They want to punish genius. I'm not going to let that happen. I will make the Trump tax cuts permanent and deliver massive tax cuts for families and individuals and businesses that produce jobs. That includes no tax on tips. You know that, right? Going to get rid of the tax on tips. I will cut unnecessary and burdensome regulations, fight every day to make America the best place on earth to build a business, including a crypto business. It's going to be the best place. You're not going to have to go to China. You're not going to have to learn, gee, how do I learn Chinese? I want to learn it very quickly. I have a little granddaughter that speaks fluent Chinese. Can you believe it? And it's a wonderful thing, but it's not easy, but you're not going to have to do it. Most importantly, for our citizens, we will end the inflation nightmare that this administration has created, and we will end it. It's destroying our country. You know, inflation is a country buster. You can go back many, many years to Germany, and you look at what happened to Germany during their huge period of inflation, destroyed the country. It's a country buster. The Bitcoiners, and I say to you that you recognize the dangers of inflation long before most others did. You understood inflation, frankly, better than anybody else. You know that, don't you? If only they had listened. They didn't listen to you. They didn't listen to you. The trillions of dollars in ridiculous waste approved by our opponents resulted in the very inflation disaster that Bitcoiners had always predicted. 20, 30, and even 40% of the value of every dollar was wiped out and wiped out quickly. Millions of Americans was rapidly destroyed, and very simply, uncontrolled inflation is a stealth taxation of the middle class. It really is. It's a stealth taxation. I call it the Biden towel. We're going to call them. But it's a disaster. It's a tax of 50%. It's a 50% tax. Inflation, think of it. It's a 50% tax on people, 50. This is a human tragedy, and it's destroyed people. It's a national disgrace. It's destroyed everything in its way. It must never be allowed to happen again, and it won't. When I'm president, I guarantee you it won't happen, because we're going to do things that make sure it doesn't happen. They've allowed pricing to get totally out of control. We're going to do energy, bring it down to levels that people have not seen in many, many years. We had it at levels. We were at $1.87 for a gallon of gasoline. You don't see that right now. For 4 straight years, under my leadership, we had effectively no inflation, none. When I left office, it was 1.4%, and then it stayed there for almost 2 years. Remember when Biden said it was 9? I inherited 9%. That was just another lie. Misinformation, disinformation. We gave them a hot country. We went through the COVID. We did an incredible job. Never got credit for that. Always got credit for the economy, for the military. We rebuilt the military. We created Space Force. We did so many different things. Never got credit for that. You know what? We gave them a great country with essentially no inflation, and after the roof. 2 years, cost of living went up in some cases by over 50%. And they say 22%. They like to say 22, but it could be much higher, and it is much higher depending on what they include. They don't include things like interest rates that went from 2.5% to 10%, but you can't get the money. When I return to the White House, I will stop the wild and wasteful spending of this administration. I will end the endless wars. They never stop. Again, we had no wars. We had no new wars under your favorite president, President Trump. We had no new wars. They thought I was going to start a war. Let me tell you something. I'm going to stop World War III, because we're closer to World War III than we've ever been since the end of World War II. I will seal the border and stop the invasion of millions of people pouring into our country illegally. We will totally defeat, and we will do this quickly. We will defeat inflation, and together we will bring back the American dream for citizens of every race, religion, color, and creed. We will bring it back, the American dream. You don't even hear the statement American dream anymore. You don't hear those words anymore. We used to talk about the American dream. A lot of you people are in the American dream, but you're going to be crushed. I hate to tell you. You don't elect me, you're going to be crushed. You're going to say, Alice, what a mistake it was. We went for a person who has no talent. She's been a failure at almost everything she's done instead of Trump. And look at us now. We're going to move into an extremely small house from our beautiful house. But we will end the war on American energy, and we will very simply drill, baby, drill. We're going to drill, baby, drill. We have to. It's what we have. We have more liquid gold under our feet than any nation in the world, more than Saudi Arabia, more than Russia. We don't use it. We don't use it. They use it. We don't use it. We go out to Venezuela. It's amazing. But we won't stop there. We will harness American energy in all forms. I've set the ambitious goal that by the end of my term, the United States will be the #1 lowest cost of energy and electricity of any nation on earth. We can make it so inexpensively. Because of what we have under our feet, we can make it so inexpensively. And with low energy costs, America will become the world's undisputed Bitcoin mining powerhouse. You'll be a Bitcoin mining powerhouse. You will not have to move your family to China. You will not be moving to China. As we implement these reforms, Bitcoin and crypto will grow our economy, cement American financial dominance, and strengthen our entire country long into the future. Many Americans do not realize that the United States government is among the largest holders of Bitcoin. Does anyone know that? How about that? The federal government has almost 210,000 Bitcoin, or 1% of the total supply that will ever exist. But for too long, our government has violated the cardinal rule that every Bitcoiner knows by heart. Never sell your Bitcoin, right? That's right, isn't it, huh? That's right. How did I figure that one? Never sell your Bitcoin. And so, as the final part of my plan today, I am announcing that if I am elected, it will be the policy of my administration, United States of America, to keep 100% of all the Bitcoin the U.S. government currently holds or acquires into the future. We'll keep 100%. I hope you do well, please. This will serve in effect as the core of the strategic national Bitcoin stockpile. As you know, most of the Bitcoin currently held by the United States government was obtained through law enforcement action. You know that. They took it from you. Let's take that guy's life. Let's take his family, his house, his Bitcoin. We'll turn it into Bitcoin. It's been taken away from you because that's where we're going now. That's where this country is going. It's a fascist regime. And so as I take steps to transform that vast wealth into a permanent national asset to benefit all Americans, today I repeat my pledge to commute the sentence of Ross Ulbricht to a sentence of time served. It's enough. It's enough. That's what we are as a country. Ultimately, my promise to each and every one of you is this: I will be the pro-innovation and pro-Bitcoin president that America needs and our citizens deserve. This will be one industry, but this will be a thriving industry, a great industry, and I'm going to be doing the same thing for every other industry also. Our nation has never thrived by trying to censor new ideas and shut down the dreams of our people. America always plants our flag on the next frontier and pushes boldly ahead. We have to do that. We haven't been doing that for a long time, especially the last 3.5 years. It's gone the exact opposite. Those of you in this room inherit the legacy of generations of American pioneers and patriots, risk takers and renegades who settled this continent, built the modern world, and lived on the bleeding edge. You live on a bleeding edge. You do know that, Bitcoiners, don't you? You are the modern day Edisons and Wright brothers and Carnegies and Henry Fords, and what you do in your lifetime stands a chance to outlive us all and inspire humanity for generations to come. this will go down as a very important day in the history of your industry. Together, you are building America's future with your own smarts, your own grit, and your own skin in the game. You have a lot of skin in the game, and that's what you're doing. It takes courage to do it. Most people don't have that courage. My job will be to set you free and to let you do what Americans do best and what you're going to do better than anybody. Win, win, win. You're going to win, win, win. With energy, passion, and brilliance like we have rarely seen before, our country cannot fail. We're a failing nation right now, but we're not going to be for long. Our country cannot fail. With your help, we will save our nation, we will restore our republic, and we will make America and Bitcoin bigger, better, stronger, richer, freer, and greater than ever before. Thank you all. Have a good time with your Bitcoin and your crypto and everything else that you're playing with. And we're going to make that one of the greatest industries on earth. Good luck and God bless you all. Thank you. God bless you. Thank you.
Bitcoin is digital gold. Bitcoin is digital gold. Bitcoin is digital gold. Is digital gold. Is digital gold. Bitcoin is digital gold. Bitcoin is digital gold. Bitcoin is digital gold. Is digital gold. Bitcoin is digital gold. Bitcoin is digital gold. Bitcoin.
Magazine. I'm your host, Pete Rizzo, editor of Bitcoin Magazine. You just saw history of the 45th President of the United States, Donald J. Trump, making history in addressing the Bitcoin industry. We got some quotes from him. In 15 years, Bitcoin has gone from an idea to the 9th most valuable asset in the world. Stay tuned. Cynthia Lummis now taking the main stage. We're told she has even a bigger announcement. Let's take a look.
Donald Trump, here it is. This is the Bitcoin Reserve Bill. I'm reading from the text. in the Senate of the United States to establish a Bitcoin strategic reserve, a network of secure storage vaults, purchase program, and other programs to ensure the transparent management of Bitcoin holdings of the federal government. My name is Cynthia Lummis, and I'm the Bitcoin Senator. When Satoshi Nakamoto, in January of 2009, mined the first Bitcoin, he brought about an asset that will change the world. And this is our Louisiana Purchase moment. This Bitcoin reserve that we're going to create will start with the 210,000 Bitcoin that President Trump just mentioned and pull it into a reserve stored in geographically diverse vaults. And that's only the beginning. Over 5 years, the United States will assemble 1 million Bitcoin, 5% of the world's supply. And it will be held for a minimum of 20 years and can be used for one purpose: reduce our debt. This Bitcoin is going to be transformative for this country. As President Trump just said, we are printing too much money. We are spending too much money. We printed in 22 months during COVID the same amount of money that had ever been printed in the history of the United States. Well, no more. With a strategic Bitcoin reserve, we will have an asset that in that period of time before 2045 can cut our debt in half. And as Michael Saylor said yesterday, if we put $3.3 million in a Bitcoin reserve, we will eliminate the United States debt. We will be debt-free because of Bitcoin. This asset is transforming not only our country, but our world. And the United States needs to be the global leader, as President Trump just said. And you know what? We don't have to raise taxes to do it. We have the funds now. This bill provides that not only will the asset forfeiture money be transferred into this reserve, fulfilling President Trump's promise that he won't sell any Bitcoin, but we will convert excess reserves at our 12 Federal Reserve banks into Bitcoin over 5 years. We have the money now. But we'll no longer be holding it in US dollars, an asset that is designed to debase at least 2% per year. We'll be holding it in an asset that will grow in value, that throughout its history has grown 55% per year. This is the solution. This is the answer. This is our Louisiana Purchase moment. Thank you, Bitcoin. It's your love of freedom, your innovation, your thoughtful design, your keeping this asset alive, well, free, and in support of individual sovereignty that is going to save America. Let's make America free again, Bitcoin. This is our present to the United States of America. Thank you.
Welcome back to the Mara News Desk, powered by Bitcoin Magazine. I'm your host, Pete Rizzo, editor of Bitcoin Magazine. We've got a packed panel here to react to even more news. It's pouring out here in Nashville, Tennessee. To my far left, Frank Corvo, lead business 31 Ventures guy. Cynthia Lummis, the Bitcoin Reserve Bill, strategic reserve, talking about a network of reserves that will ensure the transparent holdings of the federal government. Bitcoin, they want to hold Bitcoin for 20 years. Cynthia talking about the Federal Reserve System converting its excess reserves into Bitcoin. Matt.
I mean, I think that is absolutely massive. I think it will take people a little bit to realize what a big deal that is. I think it's great for the country. I mean, I think it's obviously great for people that are holding Bitcoin as well, because it should increase the adoption of Bitcoin substantially. And last but not least, I would say, you know, I have a great relationship with Senator Lummis, Senator Blackburn, who's coming on next, Senator Haggerty. Both Senator Blackburn and Haggerty are here in the great state of Tennessee. And I would just say that at the local level, it is incredibly impressive how our politicians are thinking about moving this country forward, and it's inspiring to see.
Well, Lummis with the big Y here, reducing our debt. Frank Allen, your take on the government could buy Bitcoin as a way to solve the debt crisis.
Alan, I'll kick it over to you.
Yeah, well, I mean, first off, let's just talk about the energy in that room. I mean, it's very, very clear, Matt, you're talking about the local level, but at the federal level, and I mean, this really all kicked off in May when Trump made very pro-Bitcoin comments at the Libertarian National Convention. We're 3 months out from that, and all of a sudden we're talking about Bitcoin as part of the U.S. Strategic Reserve. I mean, it's hard not to be bullish.
Well, I say gradually, then subtly, but is this real, Frank? Do you think that this proposal can actually be passed? Can it be enacted? Is this just hopium for the masses?
This is a good question. I think Lummis was the right person to deliver it. She's been pro-Bitcoin for a long time now, so if they were going to choose someone, a senator, to do this, I think Lummis was absolutely the right person. Is it hopium? We don't know. You know, at the same time, we're not here necessarily to pander to politicians, but we are here to celebrate when they do sort of see what we see and when they're going to take action.
Well, of course, we saw history with the 45th president of the United States before. We'll be back to connect the dots between this Lummis announcement and Trump's historic speech, sending it back to the Nakamoto stage. We've got another packed panel of Vivek Ramaswamy and more. Stay tuned. It's Bitcoin 2024.
Hello, everybody. We are going to be talking about Bitcoin, American democracy. I'm here with U.S. Senator Marsha Blackburn of Tennessee and Vivek Ramaswamy. Well, first of all, I'd love to get your reactions to what President Trump just said, as well as Senator Cynthia Lummis talking about having a strategic Bitcoin reserve for the United States. This is a historic moment here in Tennessee.
It is indeed a historic moment, and I am so thrilled that President Trump has become the first presidential candidate to actually have a Bitcoin platform. I think that that is so significant, and what you're going to see from those of us in the Senate, once President Trump is inaugurated, is a push to make certain that those of you that are involved in Bitcoin have the energy that you need, low-cost, affordable, stable energy, so that you can do your Bitcoin mining. Another thing you're going to see us do is make certain that you can self-custody And you're going to see us get the federal government off your back, out of your blue wallets, and let you control your life and have that freedom of transaction that allows.
So I want to make an observation about President Trump's speech. And I think it was historic, not just because he gave that speech and it's in the interests of the people in this room. That's not why he made the commitments he did. He made the commitments he did because it's in the interests of the United States of America and the values that this country was founded on. And there is a difference. I think that if our founding fathers were alive today, they would have endorsed every one of the things that Donald Trump just said on that stage. It is part of a deeper cancer in this country where you think about what is sucking the lifeblood out of the United States of America. It is the rise of this fourth brand. Of government, the people who were never elected to run the government, who are actually writing rules that are, I think what you're going to get out of that second Trump term isn't there to go around and just mess around the edges of it. We want to get in there and actually shut that down. That's how you revive this country, put that regulatory state in its place. You know, one of the things that we didn't necessarily hear from today, but I want to see become part of this conversation is every time one of these administrative agencies, you know, the SEC was discussed today, pursues an action that they end up losing in federal court, they're still putting people through hell in the process. You know what? If you lose, you pay. And to actually have accountability in the government for the cases they actually bring, so it's not a one-sided crusade, but there's actually accountability once and for all for the people who are actually making hell for American citizens. And I think that's where this conversation is going.
We've heard President Trump talk about how he wants America to be first. What's at stake if another country adopts Bitcoin before us?
So look, I think, go ahead, Marsha. No, you have good thoughts on that.
No, you go ahead on that, and then I'll follow up.
So look, I think that the United States of America was founded on the unapologetic pursuit of excellence. Excellence is our heritage. It is in our DNA as a country. And so what I think is at stake for the United States of America is really shame. The idea that we, through self-harm, constrained ourselves from achieving the maximum of what is possible in Bitcoin or in any other arena is, I think, a stain on our country. When we rallied behind the cry to make America great again, it was not just Donald Trump that we hungered for. It was for the unapologetic pursuit of excellence. That is who we are as Americans. That is our heritage. That is our identity. That's what's at stake in this room, right? When you say Bitcoin to the moon, you know, I know many people just want the value of their holding to go up, and that's fine. But I think it is a statement of a deeper point of American exceptionalism, right? We're the unbounded, the unbridled, the unafraid, the people who would not be constrained to achieve the maximum of our potential without any government or system standing in our way. That's what our founding fathers envisioned. And I think that culture, it has been domesticated, it has been tamed, it has been whipped into submission by this new culture that penalizes excellence and celebrates victimhood. While that inner animal has now leapt oceans to lift up places like China. And so, yes, when we say make America great again, what we want is to unleash that inner beast, unleash that inner animal spirit. And that's the animal spirit that I know motivates those of you in this room to achieve what you do. And that's what we're going to unleash again in January of next year.
Yes, and I think as you look at what President Trump was saying and adding on to what Vivek is saying, what we realize is that there is a new axis of evil. It is Russia, China, Iran, North Korea. And we understand and fully appreciate if America is not first in this innovation, then the innovation is going to go to whomever is first, whomever has the lowest barrier to entry. And we don't want that innovation, those bright minds, to leave our shores. We want those bright minds to be here. Likewise, that also means getting the federal government out of your way. And one of the things you will see from President Donald Trump is going to be a push to work with us in the Senate and in the House to rein in the federal government, to right size these agencies, and to make certain that we're getting rid of a lot of these unnecessary rules and regulations and bureaucrats who spend their time shuffling paper and never answering the questions that we, the people, have of those agencies, whether it's the SEC, the FDIC, the IRS. So if you're going to open doors of opportunity, it means you remove the obstacles. And I think we have certainly defined what many of those obstacles are.
Let's talk a little bit about transactional freedom. Yesterday, a lot of the people who came to the Bitcoin conference heard Edward Snowden say that America is the only advanced democracy that doesn't have a data privacy law. What are you going to do to prevent financial surveillance and really allow for transactional freedom?
Natalie, I'm so glad you brought that up, because since 2012, I have had legislation that would establish a national federal preemption on data privacy and allow you, the individual, to own what I call your virtual you, which is you and your presence online. Now, as we look at the expansion of Bitcoin and of crypto, as we look at the growth of AI, as we look at the speeds with quantum, what do we know? If you're going to have AI, if you're going to have transactional freedom, you have to have a national, federally preemptive data privacy and data security law so that you have the right to own your presence online. And you have the right to shield that from being used to train large language models. And our hope is that with Republicans in control of the Senate Commerce Committee, we will be able to pass and have President Trump sign into law a national data privacy standard.
And I should say, notice everything about Marcia's comments. These are not particularly partisan issues, right? And you mentioned the Republicans, and that's what's going to be required in a new majority after January. But this is not a Republican or Democrat issue, and it certainly shouldn't be. Same goes for the opposition to a central bank digital currency. What was the most popular argument for the adoption of one? And this is all about surveillance too, by the way. The most popular argument is that, hey, China's doing it. They're going to a digital yuan, and so we have to do it in the United States to keep up with the Joneses or keep up with the Jinpings or whatever the case may be. You have to step back and ask yourself why China is adopting a central bank digital currency or taking steps to adopt one, is to implement a surveillance state by force that otherwise would not have been able to be implemented without that central bank digital currency. So I do think that these should transcend partisanship. I also want to make a prediction this year about the election because of this. I think there's a good number of people across the United States of America who will not say that they're going to vote for Donald Trump or for a Republican this year, but who absolutely stand for financial freedom. They call themselves single-issue voters in crypto, and I think one of the things I've found in the tech world, crypto world, Bitcoin world is when you say you're a single-issue voter, effectively that means you're voting for Trump this cycle and you don't want to just pronounce it in so many words. So my empirical prediction here is I think the polls are actually off by about at least 1%. I think whatever the polls look like, you can add 1% of it, and that's the way you're going to adjust it. If that prediction proves right this November, you can call that the Bitcoin bump or the crypto bump this November, because I do think when you look at the number of people who are actually using or adopting Bitcoin or crypto into your portfolio, who understand the assault on that by the regulatory state today through the back door, not even through the front door, I think we now have a clear choice between the two major candidates of who's going to be the right one to get that job done. And I think it's, Natalie, I think probably for the first time in history, going to have a measurable, palpable impact on the outcome of this election relative to the polling that you now see. And so that'll be a prediction I'll make today.
Yeah, and if I can add one thing on the CBDC, this is something that as China started to push the digital yuan when Beijing hosted the Olympics, some of us stepped forward to make certain that our U.S. athletes were shielded from that because of the surveillance that is built into that. And a CBDC leads to that social credit score. It leads to the government telling you how you can and cannot spend your money. And you know, Natalie, I think we all remember in 2022 when the Canadian government shut down the bank accounts of people that weren't willing to mask. And then you had the trucker strike and they shut down bank accounts. The federal government ought not to be messing with your transactional life. You want that freedom.
Yeah, that event minted a lot of Bitcoiners. Vivek, I'm glad you brought up bipartisanship, because one thing a lot of Bitcoiners love is that Bitcoin is a neutral currency, that it is apolitical. What if some people are watching this out there in their homes in America and they see President Trump embracing Bitcoin, and now they see it as something that's going to be used as a conservative tool, that maybe they should oppose it just because the other side is embracing it? What do you say? Should Bitcoin be apolitical and bipartisan?
Yeah, so absolutely it should. In fact, this goes back to America's heritage. Alexis de Tocqueville traveled this country, over a century and a half ago. And one of the things he said is that the United States of America isn't actually supposed to last. The land is too expansive. It's too diverse in terms of the ethnic heritage of people. There's too much religious diversity. This isn't supposed to last unless there are certain, what he called intermediary institutions that are apolitical, that you preserve from the sphere of partisan politics. And that's the sports of this country, the private sector of this country, the philanthropic institutions, but I would put Bitcoin in that category as well, where once that itself becomes politicized, then that, I think, is the beginning of the end. Listen really carefully to what you heard from President Trump. I know that was not delivered off the cuff, okay? Every one of those commitments he made were well thought out, and I think if he took the trouble, believe me on this, if he took the trouble of vetting it to say that it's going to go into that speech you heard today, he really means it and stands behind it. None of that involved the weaponization of a new tool to advance conservative ends. Sure, are there going to be some people who say that, hey, the right thing to do is to co-opt these administrative agencies and use them to advance conservative ends rather than progressive goals? Maybe some people who advocate for that, and they're entitled to their view. But I think what we stand for is when we hopefully win this election and take over in January of 2025, we don't want to co-opt those three-letter agencies or the regulatory state. We just want to get in there and shut it down for everybody. Left, right, center, doesn't matter. That's how you revive the country on principle. And so, yes, do we want to keep it neutral? You're darn right. Capitalism is neutral. Capitalism is what unites us across our otherwise partisan differences. It's been politicized, I would argue, in the other direction. But the right answer there isn't to fight fire with fire. In this case, it is to fight fire with water. And that is how you actually preserve what our founding fathers envisioned in 1776.
Let's talk a little bit about the American dream. It's been lost for so many people. It's been on the decline. And
welcome back to the Mara News Desk, powered by Bitcoin Magazine. Once again, I'm your host, Pete Rizzo, editor of Bitcoin Magazine. Hours ago, we watched history happen, or just an hour ago, we watched history happen when the 45th President of the United States, Donald Trump, took the stage, unveiling a slew of policy proposals. Reacting here on the desk, a new power panel. To my left, David Zell of the Bitcoin Policy Institute. To his left, Jack Mallers, CEO of Strike. And we've got Matt Pines, also of the Bitcoin Policy Institute. Going to rip through some headlines from Donald J. Trump's speech. Bitcoin will be approaching silver and gold, and one day it will overtake gold. Quote, there's never been anything like it. Quote, day one promised to fire Gary Gensler. In the first 100 days, he said the rules for the Bitcoin and crypto industry will be written by people who, quote, love the industry, freedom of transaction, freedom of association, freedom of speech, safe, responsible expansion of stable coins, downplayed the threat to the dollar that Bitcoin poses. And he said the danger is not from crypto, but from Washington, D.C. And of course, the big headline, committing to not selling 200,000 Bitcoin that the US government owns. His quote, never sell your Bitcoin. Want to go to the panel reacting to Donald Trump's speech. Thoughts to the floor. Who were there? You were all there watching history happen.
We were. Jack?
You want me to go?
Yeah.
All right, here's my complete take. I think there's a lot of media talking about, is this strong dollar? Is this weak dollar? Is the government going to speculatively attack the dollar and reprice the dollar against Bitcoin? What I heard up there is this is neutral dollar from both. I'm combining Trump and Lummis. I think my personal takeaway is if they execute and follow through on this, so everything that was said is still speculative because he's not elected and in office. This announcement and the combination and the bill proposed by Lummis, if this is followed through, I put this on par for a U.S. economic announcement to 71 and Nixon.
Wow.
I do. I think the takeaway for me in the massive difference, if you think 1971 economic announcement, if you think 2008, all the economic announcements, those had negative connotations. Those were out of desperation. This is a progressive announcement, right? This is an announcement.
Pump to unwind a Nixon shock.
This is an announcement. He talked about jobs. He talked about energy. He talked about industry. This is an announcement about growth, about freedom, about future. This is an announcement of the United States of America on offense.
Yeah.
I think it's that big of an announcement, but in 71, we were on defense. And I think Bitcoin is freedom, it's optimism, it's innovation. So I think it's very American. I think the fact that you got two presidential candidates and a senator proposing such a bill is a huge deal. Unfortunately, I mean, I even am going to have to check Twitter and say, like, wait, what did each of them say? But that's my takeaways. It's not anti-dollar. It's not pro-dollar. It's not speculatively attacking the dollar. It's neutral dollar. It's pro-America. It's us being on offense. That's my take.
David, Matt, Jack saying this is history.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I think there was a lot said, but if you strip away the sort of showmanship, the normal Trump speech, I mean, just the distilled policy points that Trump communicated, it'd be hard to ask for anything else. I mean, he talked about defending the right to self-custody, the right to mine. He talked about Bitcoin and stablecoins strengthening the dollar, pledged to commute Ross's sentence. I mean, I'm not sure there's a single sort of concrete policy ask of the Bitcoin community that he didn't firmly commit to. So, yeah, I mean, I thought it was historic, and I was impressed by the level of sort of techne in terms of the actual policy promises. They were sort of sandwiched in there. You had to sort of be listening. But, I mean, if there were a wish list that I had before that speech, I don't think there'd be any box unchecked.
Well, I'm going to wind it back. Robert F. Kennedy Jr., independent candidate on stage yesterday, promising to buy 4 million Bitcoin, promising to remove taxation on crypto and Bitcoin purchases. Matt, your reaction, how did it stack up, Donald's speech?
Well, I think that was sending a certain signal, right, that he was going to one-up potentially Trump's announcement. But I think today's speech was historic for Bitcoiners, but it was really strategic from the standpoint of anyone else around the world, especially other capitals that have to pay attention when a potential future president makes such a strategic potential shift in how the United States approaches Bitcoin. I think, folks in the hall, I think about it from the lens of what does it mean for Bitcoin? But I think national leaders around the world and other key decision makers are going to have to think about what this could mean for them, and what sorts of second and third order consequences that might entail for how the United States is going to position itself, not just around Bitcoin, but around other larger shifts that could cascade in the future Trump administration. So I think that was a pretty substantial, announcement from the standpoint of the folks in the room, but it could have even larger consequences as we go into the future of Trump.
Of course, the headline I think that's going to emanate here is the strategic Bitcoin reserve. So want to talk about that specific policy proposal. Obviously, the U.S. government owns Bitcoin. Trump has vowed not to sell that Bitcoin. David, would love your thoughts. Is this possible? Is this something he could actually achieve if he was elected?
I mean, I think it's something that he can achieve during the 4 years he's president if he's elected. The sort of any permanence to that policy, I believe, would require an act of Congress.
Yeah, so he can use authorities under the 1934 Gold Act to take existing funds in the Exchange Stabilization Fund, which gives the Treasury Secretary discretion to stabilize the dollar by making purchases of gold, foreign exchange, or other securities or credits. And so the Treasury Secretary could probably just use a legal opinion to designate Bitcoin as foreign exchange. There's only, I think maybe $37 billion in the Treasury, Exchange Stabilization Fund, so could get a starter position. But actually getting to 1 million Bitcoin, which is the Lummis bill, that would be, I think, a much harder task. Just the announcement could probably lead to a runaway in the price, and it might be hard to catch up.
I want to talk about his messaging to the industry. Of course, we've got a great entrepreneur on the stage right now. I'm talking about Jack Mallers. Jack, as an industry scion who's moved some of your operations abroad because of the current administration, what is your impression of Donald Trump's messaging here?
We're bullish. We're bullish. But, you know, hopefully this answers your question, but I think the profound takeaway is I think Donald Trump, I think RFK, I think Senator Lummis, I think the United States of America needs Bitcoin more than Bitcoin needs them. I think we all need Bitcoin more than Bitcoin needs us, right? And in my opinion, good times create weak men create hard times create strong men create great times. I think that's a lot of what we're living through in the United States of America. However, when I think of the strong men that were born out of incredibly tough times, like 71 in the divorce from gold standard, like in 2008, when you think of the strong men that are born out of these tough times, maybe you think of Roman gladiators on a horse, right? I think of Satoshi Nakamoto. Let me bring to light what is accomplished here, the power of the people to get presidential candidates to come up and look me, a 30-year-old American entrepreneur, and they tell, I'm going to keep you in business. I'm going to support your industry. I'm going to back our deficits and our debt with a hard asset. I'm excited, and I think the takeaway is a very strong men were born on a hard times, and there's an American revolution, but these strong men don't have faces, don't have swords, don't have guns. This isn't about human blood. This is cryptography. These are cypherpunks, strong men creating amazing times for this country. And the power of the people is that these politicians had to come serve us at this conference, come to our territory, speak our language, support our businesses. I think it's a huge deal. So again, we'll have to see what happens. But that's the profound takeaway is I started my company 4 years ago. And to sit and watch the leading presidential candidate come to my conference that I've been to every year and tell me how he's going to support me. I mean, come on.
That's got to feel good.
I think I'm proud to be an American right now.
Wow. Coming up on a short break, of course, I think the question that people are going to be asking, is this the most historic moment we've seen at a Bitcoin conference? I know, Jack, you made history at Bitcoin 2021 when the first nation, El Salvador, went on a Bitcoin standard and announced it at this conference. How does it stack up? You were in the room for both historic moments.
Listen, it's not competition. I'm not going to do that. What I will take this opportunity to protect President Bukele. I think he's gotten unfortunate, maybe some miscommunication, but some slander nonetheless. I think the Salvadoran people and El Salvador as a country are heroes. It's hard. It's impossible to say that we wouldn't be here without them. But I don't think it's also unfair to say that. I think that it's unbelievably brave what they've done. And I think we're all forever indebted to a country that was willing to be that brave despite no one else willing to take that leap. So where it stacks up, it's not going to be my place. I think that's you guys. You're the analyst, brother. But I do think that Bukele deserves a lot of credit, and I hope Bitcoiners know that we have his back.
Unpacking history here at the Mara News Desk. Former President Donald J. Trump speaking at a Bitcoin conference, making history. We'll be right back at the analyst desk after these messages. Stay with us.
Next year, we are bringing the Bitcoin conference to the American West, Las Vegas.
Bitcoin is digital gold.
The brightest minds
Bitcoin is digital gold.
Bitcoin history.
Bitcoin is digital gold. Is digital gold. Is digital gold. Bitcoin is digital gold. Bitcoin is digital gold. Bitcoin is digital gold. Is digital gold. Is digital gold.
This is Mara, taking Bitcoin mining to the cutting edge of energy solutions. We're monetizing excess hydro energy in Paraguay, turning waste into value by reducing landfill emissions, and recycling data center heat to warm communities in Finland. With Mara, we're building the base layer of a sustainable future. To learn more, visit mara.com.
So, what is money and how does it get value? Paper money has value because someone says so. Bitcoin is different. It's like digital gold. It has value for many of the reasons gold does, but that's only the start. It has a limited supply, only 21 million, so no one can decide to just print more. Because no central authority controls it, it can never be shut down. And unlike with banks and credit card companies, you don't need approval to use it. It puts the power back in all our hands. Bitcoin lets you control your finances. Kraken lets you buy Bitcoin. Kraken, see what crypto can be.
Welcome back to the Mara News Desk, powered by Bitcoin Magazine. I'm your host, Pete Rizzo, editor of Bitcoin Magazine, reacting again to history made here as President 45 Donald J. Trump delivers a historic speech to the Bitcoin conference here in Nashville, Tennessee. On the desk to unpack everything that was said, we've got Matt Pines, Jack Mallers, and David Zell. The question, of course, now that we've heard the policy proposal from Cynthia Lummis is this a speculative attack on the dollar? Is this the United States of America using Bitcoin to attack the dollar? David, Jack, your thoughts?
No. And I think it's actually really important that we break down what was proposed. From my understanding, what Senator Lummis just proposed is she's going to take the seized coins and move it into Treasury. That's over 200,000 coins. And then she wants the excess reserves at the 12 Fed banks to be used to purchase up to 1 million Bitcoins over the next 5 years. The reason I think that's significant is they are not printing new currency to buy Bitcoin. As much as bullish as we might be on that, that's very dangerous to the American people, right? If you want to, like, how high would inflation be? Well, if inflation's measured by BTC USD, it would be thousands of percent. So the middle and lower class would be unbelievably destroyed if they did that. And that was the concern, is Trump going to print dollars and speculatively attack our own currency, the world reserve currency? And so I think it's very clever, this proposal, is all the excess reserves are in gold. That gold is marked at $35 an ounce. It's not marked to market. If they're able to mark that gold to market, there's an extreme excess of reserves at these Fed banks. And I think what Lummis wants and what this country wants is let's build a strong reserve with that excess. Let's transition some of that out of a metal scrap and into digital gold, into harder assets. I think that's the progressive approach. That was my interpretation, which again leaves it neutral dollar for now, bullish Bitcoin, neutral dollar, pro-America. And I think that's what Trump and Lummis want out of this proposal.
Matt, David, your thoughts? Buying Bitcoin good for the dollar? How do you explain that to folks in Washington?
Yeah, I think there's two kind of key mechanisms by which Bitcoin strengthening as a financial asset and a neutral reserve asset for the world strengthens U.S. national security interests. The first is sort of the dollar stablecoin nexus, right? To the extent that Bitcoin goes up, the demand for dollar-based stablecoins goes up. Dollar-based stablecoins reserved with Treasury securities creates a sort of synergistic positive relationship between Bitcoin, dollar-based stablecoins, the power of the dollar around the world, and demand for our debt. The second is a little bit more indirect, but to the extent that our financial assets have become the sort of shock absorber for global foreign surpluses, mainly run by our adversaries, buying up our scarce assets and leading to widespread inequality and the atrophy of our defense industrial base, Bitcoin sort of redirects those foreign surpluses into an asset that doesn't have those pathological second-order effects on our political economy and our defense and industrial system, but also leads to the monetization of a novel, scarce reserve asset that happens to be held by the majority or that we happen to hold the majority or at least a plurality around the world. So, if the world is going to try to prepare for a more risky, more volatile scenario where gold becomes remonetized to a certain extent, well, that would be to the advantage of our adversaries. And if we shift to digital gold, well, I think we get the jump on them.
David, we're talking about the expanding of the dominance of the dollar through Bitcoin. How do you explain this policy proposal?
How do I explain the policy proposal? Look, our entire position in the international sphere is predicated on our control of the financial system and the current monetary order. I think what President Trump and what Senator Lummis did today was make sure that the country has a plan B. having a strategic Bitcoin reserve, whether it's 200,000 or a million or RFK's 4 million, which seems a little high.
Huge numbers here, 21 million Bitcoin.
Yeah, but the effect is the same, right? Which is to say that if America continues to be the global reserve currency, well, great. We sort of converted some gold into Bitcoin, basically. If that doesn't happen, this strategic reserve ensures that America stays on top. And I think Americans all over the world should feel better knowing that there's an orange parachute for them if they need it.
Can I make a quick comment? Yeah. So I think the idea of strong dollar, weak dollar, it gets really complicated. You know, Trump's campaigning on a weak dollar. He's talking about the exports, like his general campaign. He wants to strengthen exports by weak dollar. He's going to lower taxes. He's going to focus on growth. So I think that narrative can sometimes be convoluted. I think the main point is what every politician campaigning at this conference wants is if you're going to ask other nations to buy your debt. Right now, we're going through the worst bond market since the mid 1800s. All of our bank deposits are in that market. That's why our bank deposits aren't there. This government wants strong treasuries market. That's what Jerome Powell's job is. Keep an orderly market in treasuries. Make sure these people don't dump their treasuries. How do you instill confidence in people to buy American debt? You back it with hard assets. That's what I think this is about.
Flipping the script a little bit here, the biggest applause point for Donald's speech, quote, day one promising to fire Gary Gensler. So much applause. He said it twice. Maybe for the people at home, why was there such a widespread embrace of this statement? Matt, we'll send it over to you.
Well, I think it's no secret that Gary has been quite hostile to the broader industry. And, I think there's a sort of resentment that's been built up. And so to have, someone with his stature just kind of recognize that, I think, and, Donald feeds on the applause line. So I think that was my overall take is that, Donald's kind of experimenting each of these lines, and I think the crowd giving that reaction reinforces it over time, and I think that's a key kind of takeaway he's going to have.
Many Bitcoiners support Gary Gensler and what he's done to at least the alternative cryptocurrency market, holding the line that they're securities. Why is Gary Gensler not more popular, David?
Well, I mean, I think what the critical insight that a lot of Bitcoiners miss is that this is ultimately a sort of cypherpunk movement. You can have your own normative moral judgments about cryptocurrencies or crypto technology, whatever it is. But I think if you are a cypherpunk, you want the market to resolve these issues, not just some guy in a suit in an office somewhere.
Winding down here, of course, before we go on to our next guest, guys, quickly, bullish or bearish for Bitcoin, this speech? How do we feel?
I think it's pretty bullish.
Everything's bullish for Bitcoin.
Well, on the Sailor scale of double, triple, quadruple, maxi, maybe we can re-rank this speech.
Say somewhere between triple and quadruple.
You heard it from David Zell. Triple, quadruple, maxi speech from Donald Trump. We'll be right back after these messages with some more great speakers. Still more to come. Bitcoin 2024, the grand finale, moments away.
Next year, we are bringing the Bitcoin conference to the American West, Las Vegas. The brightest minds in the world will converge to deliver Bitcoin history. Buy your tickets now at b.tc/conference/2025.
So, what is money and how does it get value? Paper money has value because someone says so. Bitcoin is different. It's like digital gold. It has value for many of the reasons gold does, but that's only the start. It has a limited supply, only 21 million, so no one can decide to just print more. Because no central authority controls it, it can never be shut down. And unlike with banks and credit card companies, you don't need approval to use it. It puts the power back in all our hands. Bitcoin lets you control your finances. Kraken lets you buy Bitcoin. Kraken, see what crypto can be.
Welcome back to the Mara News Desk, powered by Bitcoin Magazine. We're here winding down at Bitcoin 2024 in Nashville, Tennessee. I'm your host, Pete Rizzo, editor at Bitcoin Magazine. We watch history. Donald J. Trump, 45th President of the United States, came, talked to a Bitcoin conference. We're reacting on the live desk with a great panel here. We're joined by Ro Khanna, Democrat congressman from Silicon Valley, California, and of course, Matt Pines and David Zell, you know from the previous installment. We're talking now about the bipartisan letter that came out today. The reaction maybe to Trump being here, that the Democratic establishment is getting together, sending a message that they want to change their tone. Ro.
Well, Bitcoin shouldn't be partisan. I mean, being against Bitcoin is like being against cell phones or the laptop or semiconductors. It's a technology. And Bitcoin is for freedom. You can't run a campaign saying we're the party of the future, we're the party of freedom, and not be for Bitcoin. If you're living in an authoritarian country, Bitcoin is how you can transact. That's how Navalny transacted in Russia. If you're living in a country where there's mass inflation, Bitcoin is your value. That's a hedge against inflation. And so our party should embrace America leading in Bitcoin. It's also embracing the world because so many people around the world are for Bitcoin. And me and a lot of young members of Congress are trying to push the party in that direction.
David, Matt, would love to get your thoughts on the importance of this letter. Does it change the tone that you're hearing here at the event?
I mean, I've definitely heard people talk about it. I don't know if it's really hit the people at the event because they're so focused on what they just heard on stage. But I think for policy people, Bitcoiners who are working on this, it is I think we're both kind of breathing a sigh of relief. I mean, everything that you just said, we've been shouting this from the rooftops for years. It sort of reminds me of something that Pete Buttigieg just talked about. Like, why has the American flag sort of drifted into being this conservative image? And the stuff you're talking about, these fundamental freedoms to own value, to transact peer to peer, to associate with other people. This is a technology that's enabling that and codifying it in code. And so, I mean, just hearing Ro Khanna say that is making my day. And look, if people aren't paying attention to it now, they will be in the days, weeks, and months to come because this is a monumental shift from the previous sort of.
But look, I have to say, the Republican establishment coming out here in full force. Donald Trump on stage talking about Bitcoin, saying one day it'll overtake gold, promising to fire Gary Gensler, an appointment of the current administration, talking about how he'll change the industry for the better. I would love to get the reaction of the panel. How do the Democrats match this? Does the current administration or future administration need to buy Bitcoin? Ro, let's stick with you.
Well, but we should have Bitcoin as a part of our national assets. I mean, think about it. If you have someone like Michael Saylor, who invested privately 10,000 when Bitcoin was at 10,000 bucks and now is a billionaire, why wouldn't the United States want to have digital property that's going to be used by people around the world? Again, that's not a partisan issue. It's an issue about being smart and having leadership. And I worked twice on bipartisan legislation. One, with Representative Patrick McHenry. So it's not just rhetoric. We worked on Fit 21 to have regulatory certainty. Here's what the SEC can do. Here's what CFTC can do. Here's a solution. It's not about an individual. It's that we need regulatory clarity. 70 Democrats voted for that. And then I voted to overturn SAB 121, which was not allowing banks to hold Bitcoin. So it's not just rhetoric. I've been for Bitcoin and crypto since 2017, representing Silicon Valley. And I am confident that the Democrats can be the party of the future on this.
Well, David, man, obviously there is a trust issue here, and there's a trust issue with the current administration. Your thoughts?
Well, I think we're in a particular moment where Bitcoin is, disruptive, and it's, the political system is still adjusting to it. But I think if we're going to look back in a few years, and I think this sense of Bitcoin being hyper politicized will actually kind of decay over time. I think there's going to be an emerging consensus by folks that recognize this is going to be an inevitable feature of the global ecosystem, the technological and monetary paradigm. And I think the smart and progressive and forward-thinking leaders are going to win, and they're going to, the folks that don't get it are going to fade away. And so I think that's going to, we're sort of in this particularly volatile moment in lots of ways. But I already sort of see these indicators that we're trending in the right direction.
Well, of course, Harris DCG poll conducted in March found 33% of voters believe Bitcoin and crypto will factor into their choice of candidate. Talking now about the idea that Bitcoin could be a swing vote or even swing the election, to the floor for reactions.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think the letter from today is a really strong step for the Democrats to neutralize or try to neutralize any advantage in these swing states that Donald Trump has gained from being pro-crypto. I mean, the reality is that by committing to just a handful of sensible things, commuting Ross Ulbricht's sentence, ensuring the right to self-custody, to run a node, I mean, these sort of basic things, ending Operation Choke Point 2.0, buying a little bit of Bitcoin, I think to any extent that Trump's pro-Bitcoin stance has afforded him an advantage, there's still plenty of time for the Democrats to neutralize that in swing states where people may be voting not just with their physical wallets, but with their hardware wallets too.
Coming up on a break, but want to get, Matt, your thoughts on this idea of the single-issue voter. Can Democrats make appeal to the Bitcoin single-issue voter?
Certainly. I think, everything's up for grabs in this moment. I think if everyone looked at the last few weeks and tries to make, confident predictions about this election, they're fooling themselves. And lots of things come down to the last minute, and lots of things down to, like, do you actually appeal to the sensible center?
Well, obviously, we heard Kamala Harris potentially being at this conference. Rumors swirling. Ro, would love to get your thoughts before we hit the break. What can she do to build on some of this bubbling of pro-Bitcoin sentiment within her party?
Well, I think she should sit down with Bitcoin and crypto leaders. And we need more Democrats to do what Wally and I did. Come here, speak at conferences like this. And she needs to look at the letter and have 2 or 3 concrete initiatives. She should say, look, I'm going to work towards passing FIT 21 so that we have regulatory clarity. I'm going to commit to having Bitcoin part of our national assets. I'm going to make sure that if you own Bitcoin or crypto, banks aren't going to discriminate against you. I mean, what kind of country is that? Why would Democrats be for discriminating against holders of cryptocurrency and not allowing them to open bank accounts? And I'm going to recognize that Bitcoin is about human rights. Bitcoin is about freedom. She's running on freedom. She's running on the future. You can't have those values and be against Bitcoin.
Well, let's zoom out and really talk about the nature of Bitcoin and it needing to remain nonpartisan or just being nonpartisan. Quickly before the break, David, Matt, would love to hear you opine on that.
Opine, I guess that was the pun for me. Yeah, I mean, I think that's what you're seeing here. Right now, I think, the Republicans have sort of seized the initial advantage, but the Democrats are, recognizing this as an opportunity. And I think Bitcoiners are fundamentally thinking about the future of Bitcoin and the future, the prospects for freedom. And, we're going to think about which political parties and which candidates sort of recognize that and support them.
David, your final thoughts?
It's like Rose said. I mean, when you have an internet connection in Bitcoin, you can be anywhere in the world, and core civil liberties that we enjoy here in America, you get to experience. And there's no reason why red or blue should dictate whether you support a technology that does something like that. For the 56% of people that live in authoritarian regimes, or the 2 billion people that live in countries with double or triple digit inflation, helping those people, that is not a partisan issue.
We'll be right back after this break with more reactions from the live news desk. Keep it tuned, Bitcoin Magazine. And if you get some time, go to bitcoinmagazine.com. Subscribe to the latest issue of Bitcoin Magazine, the privacy issue on newsstands now. We'll be back at the desk. Still more to go on the final day of Bitcoin 2024 here in Nashville, Tennessee. Smash that like and subscribe button. We're live on YouTube, Rumble, and X, and we'll be back more with special guests. Stay tuned. We're almost over here at Bitcoin 2024.
Next year, we are bringing the Bitcoin conference to the American West, Las Vegas. The brightest minds in the world will converge to deliver Bitcoin history. Buy your tickets now at b.tc/conference/2025.
Why?
What's the second best? There is no second best.
We will ensure that the future of crypto and the future of Bitcoin will be made in America.
So yeah, today we're going to be talking about runes.
We're talking about runes.
The first.
Dollar will dramatically lose its purchasing power. The more they print, the more it gets diluted. Who it's good for is the people at the tippy top.
Because in order to keep the system going, they have to keep printing money.
And Bitcoin is that tool that allows us to beat the money printer.
Bitcoin is powerful in a way that is money that does not discriminate.
Bitcoin is built by the people for the people.
Welcome back to the Mara Live Desk, everybody. We are here live at Bitcoin 2024, presented by Bitcoin Magazine. We heard from President Donald Trump just a little bit ago. We've also heard from some other politicians, some of whom are joined with me. To my left here, we have Senator Bill Hagerty. We also have Senator Marsha Blackburn. And we also have Matthew Pines joining us, National Security Fellow at the Bitcoin Policy Institute. We've heard a lot of exciting news today. Some of that news pertains to Tennessee specifically. Senator Blackburn, let me kick it over to you first. What were some of the things that you shared today on the main stage?
One of the things we talked about on the main stage is how you get government out of the way and then what's the best place for government. One of the things I'm working on is a tax credit for Bitcoin mining. Of course, here in Tennessee, we're leading the way when it comes to nuclear energy placement and development. 45% of TVA's nuclear or their power generation is in nuclear. And we have a site, the Clinch River site, which the NRC has already permitted for a small modular reactor.
In fact, the only one in the
And
nation.
The only one in the
Wow.
nation. So we are leading the way on how you get that base load capacity up and then facilitate industries that are going to need more power, one of those being Bitcoin mining. So what we are working on is legislation that would be a tax credit that would enable individuals. It could be used for economic development in rural counties, in areas we have this stable, plentiful power supply, and then we will look for those ways to incent this. We talked about that. We talked about the need to right size the federal government, the need for the federal employee retirement system first to offer a Bitcoin ETF as an option for investment.
Incredible.
And then looking at ways that instead of employers just putting money into a 401k, the allowance of those employees to use a Bitcoin ETF if they're looking at that for their store of value and want that ability to self-custody those dollars.
Perfect. Appreciate that. Senator Hackey, is there anything there that you heard that you wanted to maybe expand on a little bit?
One thing that we have, Senator Blackburn and I have spent a lot of time on this, because as we think about the Tennessee Valley Authority, that is the largest electric utility in the United States. It's located right here in our own state, and we spend a tremendous amount of time with the TVA thinking about their future supply, their future distribution needs, and how to manage all of that. We did a great breakout session yesterday with Jeff Lyash, who is the CEO of the TVA, with Governor Lee here of Tennessee and myself, talking about how we can think in the long term about building the grid that we need to support the industry, not only the Bitcoin mining industry, but importantly, how the Bitcoin mining industry can support new industries of the future, like AI, like the automotive sector that's coming in here, like ultimately semiconductor manufacturing, which we would both love to see happen here in Tennessee.
Amazing.
And if you think about the profile of the demand load for a Bitcoin miner, it's ultimately flexible.
Yep, that's right.
Which means at nighttime, when we don't need as much electricity, we can actually use that capacity and absorb that. Then the Bitcoin miners can dial up. If we were to have some type of weather event, they can dial down to zero in a millisecond. They're the perfect kind of company that can allow TVA to cost justify building out the grid, but at the same time provide this wonderful accordion effect, sort of a cushion, or if you will, to allow us some safety as we think about peak capacity and how we address the fact that we're going to have weather events or other sorts of events that will strain the system. So if you think about marrying the supply that we need to build with demand that uniquely is so flexible in this industry, that will help us cost justify building out a tremendous grid. And Senator Blackburn and I have benefited so much from the competitive advantage that the TVA delivers as we recruit companies and industry to come to Tennessee. And we want to see more of that happen. And this is one of the best ways we can imagine doing it.
Right. And one of the things is we've got Elon Musk doing a project over in Memphis, XAI.
Right, right.
And you look at the capabilities that are coming through AI and the power load that is needed there. You've got Ford with Blue Oval City, the power load that is needed there. And then having these, having diversification in your generation capacity to meet that base load, because the base load is going to be increasing.
Oh, yeah.
And this is one of the things that that Senator Haggerty and I, our governor, and Jeff Lyash at TVA are all thinking toward.
Amazing. This is sincerely appreciated. It's amazing to hear such enlightenment, such a progressive and nuanced thought from two senators. So we thank you so much for joining us here. We have to cut back for just a moment, but please stay with us. We'll be right back, and we're going to head over to you to the Nakamoto stage.
So what is money and how does it get value? Paper money has value because someone says so. Bitcoin is different. It's like digital gold. It has value for many of the reasons gold does, but that's only the start. It has a limited supply, only 21 million, so no one can decide to just print more. Because no central authority controls it, it can never be shut down. And unlike with banks and credit card companies, you don't need approval to use it. It puts the power back in all our hands. Bitcoin lets you control your finances. Kraken lets you buy Bitcoin. Kraken, see what crypto can be.
Next year, we are bringing the Bitcoin conference to the American West, Las Vegas. The brightest minds in the world will converge to deliver Bitcoin history. Buy your tickets now at b.tc/conference/2025.
Why?
What's the second best? There is no second best.
We will ensure that the future of crypto and the future of Bitcoin will be made in America.
So yeah, today we're going to be talking about runes.
We're talking about runes.
But first,
Welcome back, everybody. We're here at the Mara Live Desk at Bitcoin 2024, presented by Bitcoin Magazine. To my left, we have Matt Odell, partner at 1031. To his left, we have Joe Carlosari, partner at Amos & Davis Law Firm. And to his left, we have the man, the one and only David Bailey, CTO of BTC Inc. David, you just had the honor of introducing the 45th President of the United States, bringing him out to the main stage. What did that feel like? Tell us a little bit about it, please.
Well, it was a little awkward because then we had a 1 hour pause after the introduction. But it was cool. It was crazy to go out there and see the masses of people. I mean, it's hard to get an appreciation until you can just see them all in one view. And it just got me thinking, like, wow, this is like 15 of the first Bitcoin conference I went to. If you added all the people there together,
amazing,
15 of them in one room.
Yep.
And it's just like shit, you know. I mean, and when you talk to speakers, you know, like Trump or people who are, you know, speaking on the biggest stages. This stage is actually basically as big as they get. I mean, so he was very happy with the turnout and very excited. And I've heard that we had even more people on the live stream. Somebody told me on YouTube we had 300 something thousand concurrents.
Yep.
Sick.
It was an
Cool.
exciting time. Absolutely. Joe, I think we were standing next to each other for a minute. We were taking in some of it together. What were some of your biggest takeaways from the talk?
It was amazing. There's no way to sell it short, right? It's a historic moment for not only just Bitcoin, but for America as a whole.
Mhm.
One of my favorite lines, Trump's line about how the rules moving forward are going to be written by people who love your industry, not people who hate it, right? That is so important. As a litigator, as someone who practices in courtrooms and has to face the hostility of the U.S. government trying to clamp down on anything they don't understand,
it
is so powerful to have a president that's going to be hopefully putting forward more pro-Bitcoin policy, right? And putting it in the context, the larger context of economics and like how to build again, how to grow in our
Absolutely,
country. Putting
right.
it in the context of AI and the need to have better energy policies. Really wonderful to have Bitcoin in the mix with that.
Yep.
As somebody who's hopeful for America.
Amazing. Appreciate that. Matt, we were sitting next to each other as the speech was going on. There was a few moments where we clapped, some key phrases. Obviously, people like to hear that he was going to get rid of Gary Gensler. What were some of the things that sort of you think you're going to remember most from this talk?
He reiterated that he's going to commute Ross Ulbricht's sentence, which was
Absolutely.
incredibly important to hear. Loved hearing that. You said never sell Bitcoin, which is, I don't know, as like in terms of, to me, that just hit me really hard. I think I did the Leo point. You
Nice.
know, it's just like, oh, he said it. I can't believe he said it. And I think that's a realization, right? That's a realization just how hard this asset is, that this is the hardest asset of all time. Humanity has never seen an asset this hard, and you want to accumulate as much of it as possible. It's pretty unreal to witness it. I think I'm still decompressing. I spent a lot of the time here on this desk, and it'll probably take me a few days to really get my senses in order and figure out what comes next.
Well, sorry.
Yeah, that's fair. Please, Joe. Yeah.
No, one thing I got to say. Okay, so we all go on this Bitcoin journey, right?
Yep.
Where we go from skepticism, rejection, to sort of being more open-minded, saying some of the verbiage, not really understanding it, and then moving to the point where we get it. Like we finally
That's
get
right,
Bitcoin, right?
yeah.
Trump is on that journey. He goes from when he was very critical, right? Like he put in those tweets where he was negative about it, to now he's more accepting.
Yeah.
He's more open to it. He's going to get there, right? I can feel it. Like that's how I read his speech.
I agree, and I think that there's a gentleman we have to thank for that, and
Yes.
is sitting over to our left here. So
I would
yeah.
just say to back up that point, like the way the president or kind of makes decisions about what's going to be part of his policy platform is like he talks about it and he gets a reaction from people, and the things that people react really positively to and are excited about, he doubles down on.
Fire Gary
And so,
Gensler.
Fire Gary Gensler is going to end up becoming part of his stump speech wherever he goes, because like the crowd loves it. And so like I think this was the first time he's spoken in front of a public audience like this on this topic. There were some parts that need to be kind of like ironed out. Maybe some things like, okay, the crowd didn't like this and the crowd liked this a lot.
Yep.
So I think after a couple iterations of this, he'll start to really polish. And I think he'll start doubling down on the things that people like the most. And so like, okay, we start with, we're not selling any Bitcoins. Like it's a great reaction. And it's like, okay, well maybe we should add some Bitcoin. So I think it's a step-by-step process, but overall, he's unbelievably impressed by the energy of our industry. He's blown away by how this is all driven, by young people, and he would consider all of us up here young people.
That's good. Yeah,
and
sure.
he, the round table that we had right before he came up to speak, it was packed full of industry people. I mean,
Okay.
packed.
Yeah.
And the president said this publicly, but we've raised $25 million for the president so far.
Yeah.
This is the second biggest fundraising event the president has ever had. So, he's like, wow, this is serious people running serious businesses. These are some of my friends from Wall Street are here. Some of my friends from the energy sector are here. There's masses of people cheering for he's loving this experience.
Yeah.
So
Amazing.
I'm very eager to see where he's going to be at a couple months from now. And, I think this is not like a, one-time event. This is like he's traveling down a path.
Yeah.
This is signaling to the entire industry, right? If you're a politician out there who doesn't understand Bitcoin, you are a dinosaur. You have to get on board with Bitcoin because it is the future for growth in this country.
Amen. I appreciate that. Well, we are going to leave it there. We do have to kick it back to the Nakamoto stage. Again, David, we want to thank you for all the work you put into this, though. Yes. For all the people here watching, please give him a round of applause. We sincerely appreciate everything you've done, David. Thank you. It was a very special day here. Again, we heard President Trump speak just about an hour or two ago. We're kicking it back over to the Nakamoto stage. Stick with us here on the last day of Bitcoin 2024, presented by Bitcoin Magazine.
Solution called Fediment. It's a form of federated eCash protocol. Now, eCash was the first suggested scaling solution for Bitcoin. In fact, 9 days after Bitcoin was put forward as an idea by Satoshi, it was suggested to use Chaumian eCash as a way to scale Bitcoin to potentially billions of users. And it's a 40-year-old, mature, simple way of scaling Bitcoin. It allows incredible features. You can scale privacy, you can scale transactions, and it works today.
Hi, everybody. I'm Ryan Gentry. I'm the head of business development at Lightning Labs. Lightning Labs is the premier developer of the open source software powering the Lightning Network, which has been live on mainnet since 2018. We recently, this past Tuesday, announced a new release to our suite of software tools, the Taproot Assets protocol on Lightning. Taproot Assets is a new protocol that allows for arbitrary asset issuance on the Bitcoin blockchain in a very scalable manner, with the goal being, bringing stablecoins back to Bitcoin and bringing their, tens of trillions of dollars of annual volume to the Lightning Network and, to the Bitcoin network to help kind of grow the pie for all of our developers and companies, who number now in the hundreds, if not thousands, on the Lightning Network. So, very happy to be here today to talk about the best path for scaling Bitcoin and kind of improving upon and extending the work that's already been done by the Lightning community.
Are you saying that Lightning's working?
I'm saying the Lightning's working. Lightning's working very well.
Oh.
Yeah, it's funny that you mentioned that, Obi, because that was exactly what I had in mind to ask, is that I think out of all of the tools that are being worked on here, Lightning is perhaps the one that we know more about and the one that we all use more. And even despite claims to the contrary, right? And so on another point that you brought up about bringing stablecoins back to Bitcoin, I think that part is important because a lot of people miss or forget that stablecoins started on Bitcoin. And a lot of the developments, a lot of the use cases that we see now thriving outside of Bitcoin started on Bitcoin. So I think this also, I can see you agree, Paul, that...
Oh, yeah, of course. Yeah, we really don't want to be having more conferences where later on, people come up on stage in 3 years or 5 years and we're talking about, oh, how do we bring something back to Bitcoin? It's much easier to just proactively grow and make sure that we're always growing and we have more people coming. Growth is not just about, scalability is not just about transactions. It is about, getting a lot of people in this conference to get politicians to pay attention to us and stuff. We want the growth. That's much better than not having.
From my perspective, Bitcoin is growing. The other cryptocurrencies have raised a lot of money through things called ICOs. They've used a lot of that to advertise and market and convince people to use their cryptocurrency. However, Bitcoin has no marketing team, and it's continued to grow and extend its lead against every other cryptocurrency. So the reality is, if you just look at the reality and look at the numbers, it is growing by itself. Now, very early on, it was said by a number of people in the space, including Satoshi, but other people said this. They said that anything that would be needed to add to Bitcoin at the appropriate time, once proven in the market, can be added. And that is what we are seeing happening now with technologies like Lightning, with technologies like Fediment and eCash.
I certainly don't think it's just like a magical fact that the right technology will be added at the right time, like in an infallible process. But in general, I do agree that building a social and political movement is actually more important and more difficult than building a scalable piece of technology. So I do think that, I mean, we could ask everyone here, if there was a different coin that was more scalable than Bitcoin, would you immediately sell all of your Bitcoin and buy that coin? And everyone would say no, right? So because you want to be in a club that other people are in, and you want to be part of something that works. Although I do think the end game, it will be a matter of life or death at the very end of the game. If there is something that doesn't scale and something that does, for whatever reason, either by choice or for some other reason, the non-scalable one will be
Yes,
defeated.
that boogeyman would be a bad end state, but that's not the reality. You're looking around this set of seats right now, and we have multiple very different approaches. Each one of them has the potential to scale to billions of users, each one, and we've got 4 here. 3 are more advanced than 1.
And we should be pluralist, and we should try them all. That is very important.
Sorry about that.
I guess to your guys' point that yes, Bitcoin works, right? And it's not the most scalable or the fastest that is gonna necessarily have people just going and using them, right? And so I would, as people that are working towards that goal of bringing millions or billions of people to Bitcoin, why do we need to scale Bitcoin?
I think that's a great question, and I think the idea here is what Bitcoin is and what Bitcoin represents. And I thought Blue Matt did a really nice job earlier emphasizing and talking about trustlessness, right? And talking about the idea that the true value of Bitcoin is that you can hold and transact without needing to trust any third party, just relying on yourself, right? And so I think what we want to do is we want to be able to provide that capability to as many people as possible that we can. We want to be able to let anybody who is willing to do the work to run a node. We want to lower the barrier to entry so that you can transact trustlessly in this new world that we're in. And so obviously though, Bitcoin, to be the system that it is, has to have a capped block size. It has to have 10-minute blocks. There are these things, these aspects of the design of the system that are non-negotiable. So many years ago, as everybody's here is well aware, the decision was made to scale this system in layers. And kind of the Lightning Network was the first layer that was added into the capabilities to design the network was added in 2017 with a series of soft forks ending in SegWit. And that has allowed us to theoretically completely demolish the specific limit on transactions. Right. Well, what Lightning does is you can, with as many channels as you could open, in theory, you could be doing, hundreds of millions of transactions per second if everybody was just zipping, between each other, right? So that limit of, instead of the 3,000 transactions per block, now, 3,000 transactions per 10 minutes, now we can send, essentially an unlimited amount of transactions off chain if we wanted to. And so I think kind of the next step for scaling this trustless transactional capacity is how many people can hold the assets themselves without having to trust a third party, right? And with Lightning, right, like with anything, right, on Bitcoin, to hold it trustlessly right now, you have to own your own UTXO, right? There's like I think 150 million UTXOs, something like around that order of magnitude right now. We have a long ways to go to get to the ability for 8 billion people to do that, or at least a significant percentage of that. And I think that's what a lot of these, further-looking ideas and a lot of these proposals here are: how can we expand access to self-custodial ownership so that you can, be a first-class Bitcoin citizen making trustless transactions as designed.
I'll just add that I think if we don't scale, then probably the most important attribute of Bitcoin, the 21 million, is really just a meme. It's like completely undermined. And as much as we want to say that Bitcoin only has 21 million and we can all self-custody and no one can ever debase the currency, like if you don't have these venues for people to go out and use their Bitcoin in a trust minimized or trustless manner, then people will artificially inflate the supply of Bitcoin. Like a spicy take is I was talking to somebody, some frankly big whales out in Singapore, and they were telling me that a lot of these whales are being approached by these like Bitcoin L2s that are fake and not actually decentralized and trustless, and they're essentially giving the whales Bitcoin IOUs on these Bitcoin side chains, but not actually requiring them to go into the multi-sig or the bridge. So imagine a whale that has 100,000 Bitcoin. They're just getting a free 50,000 like Bitcoin that's minted on this chain. Like if we don't have these kind of like verifiable and trustless side chains and ability to scale, you're going to have these games that are actually played. And for me, it's like the 21 million, that kind of like the fundamental human property rights of Bitcoin. It is in fact being undermined because we don't have like fully successful scalable solutions yet, in my opinion.
So we're here in the West, and so you'll tend to have Western viewpoints on these things. But the reason why we need to scale is there are certain people who will not be able to access Bitcoin at the base layer at the cost of on-chain transactions. And you're excluding billions of people by being able to insist on these extreme views on what is required with no level of pragmatism. In the real world, we need this balance and we need this pragmatism. And with that pragmatism, you're able to service people who either are unbanked because the banking options they have don't exist. They're underbanked because the banking options they have are incredibly, almost criminally expensive, or they're debanked because they live under the yoke of authoritarian regimes and dictatorships. These are the people that we are already working with and we serve today, right now. This isn't theory, this isn't philosophy, this is reality. And that's why you need to scale today.
And I admire a lot of what Obi is saying because it's very true and it's very legitimate. But there is a world where like this technology is emerging where we can have the best of both worlds. Like we can service all of these like underbanked people. We can have the microtransactions. We can have very scalable stuff. But like we don't have to take on the trust assumptions, and we can actually like mathematically prove the validity of these things happening on layer twos. Is it there yet? I would say no. But like, do we kind of see this light at the end of the tunnel where we could get there? Possibly. And I think what we're doing now, and kind of some of these other people building the ZK rollups, it's like we're kind of taking the shot at a home run. And I love why we have like all these people on the stage, because we have these like multiple variant approaches, and what we're doing may fail. And so I think we need these different alternative solutions. But there is a potential path for us to get there, to have that holy grail of what we want, of all the stuff that Obi was just mentioning, with the actual Bitcoin ethos of credible decentralization.
And I think that's, by the way, that's the thing that excites me the most. There's a ton of different ideas, and Fedi, although we are very much focused on Fediment, it's what we create is this community super app that's run by and for communities. Anytime someone solves that magical sort of Rubik's Cube and is able to create something which is as simple to use as what we have, as private as what we have, as scalable as what we have, with lower trust assumptions, we'll just add support for that as well. It's not an either or. And that should continue at the base layer, at the Lightning layer, and at any other layer as well. And then we as an organization, as a community, add this into whatever we do and we go forward.
Yep. And I think similarly along those lines, one thing that's been really, really cool, and I would commend the Fedi team for kind of being one of the first to glom onto this idea, is using kind of Lightning as an interoperability layer for many different scaling solutions. So if you think of, the internet is a kind of network of networks, right? Patching them all together so it's all kind of one contiguous system. That's kind of how, with Fedimints being able to transact over the Lightning network with existing, either if it's a non-custodial wallet or a custodial wallet, you could think of the same exact thing happening where if I have funds in a side chain, we have this live today on the Liquid side chain, being able to hold funds on Liquid and transact over the Lightning network through submarine swaps, being able to use kind of Lightning as a universal connective tissue for all the various Bitcoin layer 2s and Bitcoin connected companies, I think makes it easy for new projects to join the community, right? You would much rather, if you're starting a new project, just have one Lightning service provider provide you access to the entire Lightning network than have go and do the BD individually with every single exchange and every single wallet to get them to support your new project, right? And so I think that kind of leveraging Lightning as an interoperability layer and letting many, many different attempts at scaling Bitcoin connect to that one common tissue is really powerful and something that we're going to see a lot of as more projects come to market.
Yeah, I think the fragmentation issue is definitely one to watch, especially with the layer twos that you mentioned, David, that there's a lot of them popping up. And so if there's this possibility to use Lightning to be this interoperability layer, I think that's very positive. I wanted to touch back on a point that many of you discussed, and I think that is central to Bitcoin, which is custody. I know we usually see it as self-custody or third-party custody, right? But Obi, you have a very interesting idea of this second-party custody that you're able to achieve with Fedimints. I wanted you to talk a little bit about that.
Yeah. So prior to being at Fedi, I ran a Bitcoin exchange for nearly a decade, the UK's longest running Bitcoin exchange. And so that was third-party custody, or nowadays I call it stranger custody. You're giving your money to a stranger, effectively. They wear a suit, they've got a really nice flashy website, but it's someone you don't know. The gold standard or the Bitcoin standard is self-custody, where you are custodying your own money yourself. But it's most complex for most people. You have to figure out where you have to make a backup, which involves recording a number of words, 12 words, we call it seed. You have to find out that's when your problems start. You have to find out where to store it, who to trust to hold it, because guess what? Most people will give it to a friend, then effectively you've given it to someone else, your money. Or you dig a hole in the ground and hope no one finds it. And then we have something in the middle, which is second-party custody, where you're holding your money with trusted friends and family, that people that you've known and trusted through your lived-in experience. It can be significantly simpler than first-party custody, but provide the user experience of third-party custody. And so understanding that, and after many years of trying to get people to self-custody from running an exchange, and being told by very intelligent people who knew the value of self-custody that unfortunately they trusted me more than they trusted themselves, we realized that they could actually trust second parties, friends and family, more than they trusted me as the CEO of an exchange. And that sort of nib of an idea led down the line to meeting my co-founder, Eric, and he introduced this idea, which was Fedimint, which is this community custody protocol, which was built on top of eCash and Bitcoin, the first eCash protocol run on Bitcoin. And it uses second-party trust from your community. So it could be as small as your family, all the way up to a village or town. And you're using the existing trust relationships, and we're leveraging that. At some point, if we can make that even more trustless, that's even better, but that's way better than trusting a stranger. It's somewhere in the middle.
Yeah, I think the self-custody point is just so important. I think it's going to be very difficult for a lot of people to learn this skill, but I don't think, like, if you can learn to drive a car, you should be able to learn like the BIP39 12-word seed or something. And I think we just have, because you were saying before about like if we lose too much ground on this, then the Bitcoin will just be a name. It will just be paint over something that is tough.
So let's take the car metaphor. Most of the people on the planet are children. So how would you deal with them?
I think the children will learn just
they will
fine.
still have value.
But of course, children
How
don't
would they
have
custody?
bank accounts.
Do they have to learn at 3 years old for the self-custody? 3 or 4? Or
Well,
5?
I think like compared to what, right? Most children don't have a bank account. So.
But are you suggesting that they should learn how to self-custody?
I think when I say self-custody, I mean like they roll their own randomness, so they know like how to use the wallet generator, and which can be, like someone could be like the Apple, the Steve Jobs of that, or whatever, make that much easier.
I would suggest that's not a pragmatic solution.
I mean, but something like Fedi, and like these, like if you have these more expressive layers, like you could build any of these solutions. Like you could have the trustless solution where somebody takes on the personal sovereignty. You could have the federation solution. It's like giving people all of the options. And so like one that I'll say is if we have these things like ZK rollups and we have these trustless side chains that have any form of expressivity that you want on them. Like one thing is like this phone, like most people don't know, it has a hardware wallet inside of it. It basically has a ledger inside of it called a secure enclave. It's like, well, why can't we use this to store our private keys in there? And those private keys are inaccessible by Apple or anybody else in the operating system. It's because you can't currently do it with the curve that's used in Bitcoin transactions. But if you can move these again into this trustless expressivity layer, like you could have this where any single person in the world that has one of these phones, this can be their hardware wallet. No more seed phrases, no more 12 words. Like my parents or anybody could actually like securely store their Bitcoin. If they want to add multi-sig to that, great. If they want to go back to the Bitcoin layer 1, great. If they want to have a federated model, great. But giving all of this optionality in the most trust minimized manner possible, like that's the solution. You kind of let this free market of solutions decide.
That is a pragmatic solution. Fundamentally, if you are technically strong enough, if you are comfortable enough with your own competence, and if you're financially capable enough, you should absolutely self-custody. It is the best option, there's no question. But being pragmatic, babies and many other people in between are not going to meet all of those criteria. And that's just the reality of the world. And we should offer options for everybody, trying very hard to move them up the technical competence journey so that we aim for always everybody self-custodying, but recognize that we don't do nothing until that point.
Yeah, I think the overall theme is that different people need different solutions, right? And so that's why we have so many people, so many great people like you guys building these different options for these different people. I think one question that I have for you, Paul, is that oftentimes, and correct me if I'm wrong, but oftentimes drive chains is touted as the upgrade to end all the upgrades, pretty much. How would you see a world with drive chains? How would these other solutions play a role in that ecosystem, or how do you envision if that comes true? What happens to these other options? Do they come into drive chains as drive chains, or do they?
I think we should be pluralist and we should try all things. I do think that drive chain would already work very well. I mean, you might think of it as like a meal where you have like appetizer, then the main course, and then desserts, or maybe hors d'oeuvres that are before the appetizer. It's sort of like I do think of drive chain as like the main course. I may be wrong about that, of course. I think that like there's not as much of a marginal improvement over. So, for example, the ZK Snark trustless bridge, every proposal requires that it be supported in at least indirectly by the L1 miners. So, because they can shut down and destroy any L2 by either just blocking how you get in or out, or even in much more direct ways, often, since they often rely on some kind of thing being put back on L1, the unilateral exit. The unilateral exit is never unilateral because it's gated by the miners. So I think that often, like, the miners already have this kind of veto power. So either the miners hate your project and it's dead and nothing can save it, or the miners are enjoying the project and they're earning money, they're earning the transaction fees from the L2. And in that case, BIP 300 is sufficient to make it trustless. And since that there's no additional assumption needed. So I think that it already offers quite a bit. I don't think I'm skeptical that other things improve upon that, but of course, people should absolutely be free to do whatever they like. I think that's.
Wait, but I think you're implying that like ZK rollups are incompatible with miner incentives because they can censor the ZK proof. But in the same way that miners collect fees from drive chains, you have all these transactions and all this activity that happens on the layer 2. It's compressed into a zero knowledge proof. It's posted onto the Bitcoin L1, and so the miners are in fact like benefiting hugely from these ZK rollups. I would argue that ZK rollups will like be the primary reason why the security budget is not an issue moving into the future.
Well, I think we definitely agree that I think the merge mined L2s, or anything that passes, any L2 that passes the transaction fee revenue down to miners will eventually be like 99% or more of the miners' revenue. And I said in my little opening statement about like hundreds of billions of dollars a year. And of course, this is actually growing. It doubles about every 11 years, as far as I could tell, the total number of transactions on Earth. So I completely agree with that. I just think it's easier to just have, I mean, Satoshi already invented merge mining. We already have, a lot of this stuff already exists, and we've been merge mining Namecoin, which is very, very small, but we've been doing that continuously since 2010. And in 2010, Satoshi had a very interesting saying that I wanted to remind everyone here of. He said, I'm sure that in 20 years, there will either be very large transaction volume or zero transaction volume. And he said that in 2010, so 2030 would be when he, if you take that very seriously, that would be the time when it would either go big. I mean, if we want to live in a world where everyone is using Bitcoin. That is how we maximize the chance of getting to this tens of millions of dollars per coin price, and we don't want to go the other way to zero.
One additional point it's a meta point, regardless of the specific path the community decides to pursue, the key to then actually scaling that solution and using it to bring users on board to Bitcoin is by making really user-friendly software, right? That is kind of table stakes, especially now in a world with, well-funded competition. And so I think, making software that's very friendly for developers, getting developers to start building products, making sure that those products are user-friendly for users, and allow kind of a simple and intuitive interface for whatever layer of Bitcoin that they're operating at is table stakes. And I think that's one thing that we have always been blown away and amazed at the Bitcoin development community. I mean, we launched this new Taproot Assets upgrade on Tuesday, and already have people tweeting out new projects that they're building, new additions to the protocol that they're making, and ways to kind of bring the protocol itself to the world in a user-friendly and easily digestible way. And so just want to make sure and know all the folks up here are well aware of that's something that the community always keeps top of mind, because the best technology doesn't always win, but the technology that solves the best pain points that users are asking for has a much better chance.
Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, Fedi as a company, as I say, we make this community super app. What we've done is try to make something which is incredibly simple to use, but uses all these technologies. It uses Lightning, it uses Fedimint, and if in future, when you launch, and it reaches adoption, we'll be using those as well. It also uses Nostr, etc. But there's another thing that's really important. Beyond making an incredible experience, it's actually having users who are not just in the Bitcoin ecosystem, but it's the 99% of the people on the planet who are not in the ecosystem, and getting them into the ecosystem using this technology. Which is why, for example, we're about to announce there's a major international NGO, Save the Children, for example, who is a 100-year-old company, organization, who we are partnering with to trial and roll out these technologies like Lightning, Bitcoin, Nostr, etc. And they are and Fedimint, of course, and they are using it because after analyzing all other blockchains, they realize that this is the one that solves the problems for them.
Awesome. Yeah, we are already running a little bit over here. So I wanted to thank you, our panelists here, for an amazing panel. And thank you everyone who showed up, and enjoy the rest of the conference.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Next year, we are bringing the Bitcoin conference to the American West, Las Vegas. The brightest minds in the world will converge to deliver Bitcoin history. Buy your tickets now at b.tc/conference/2025.
Welcome back to the Mara News Desk, powered by Bitcoin Magazine. I'm your host, Pete Rizzo, editor at Bitcoin Magazine. You just heard the best path for scaling Bitcoin. We've got a packed panel to talk about the path ahead for the Bitcoin conference. That announcement just that we're taking the show on the road on the backs of Donald J. Trump, making history at the Bitcoin conference. His quotes: "The danger is not from crypto, it is from Washington, D.C. Quote, Bitcoin will go up." His commitment that the U.S. government should continue holding 200,000 Bitcoin, and that you should never sell your Bitcoin. Obviously, it's safe to say This panel has high expectations for Bitcoin 2025. I'm introducing my guests here. Brandon Green to my left, Executive Director for the Bitcoin Conference. To his left, Charlie Schumacher, VP of Corporate Communications at Mara. And last but not least, Mike Germano, President of Bitcoin Magazine 2025 Las Vegas just announced. Brandon, how are you going to top this?
Well, that's a good question. Well, first and foremost, we have presidential candidates this year. It's an election year. Next year, we might have presidents. Who knows? Bitcoin is also a global movement. It's not just based in the U.S. So trying to expand the leadership shown by our U.S. candidates and push that message abroad. Find leaders, find presidents, find candidates all around the world who are, Bitcoin candidates, like RFK said, an orange candidate. We want to find those. We want to highlight those names. We want to spread the movement to every government, every city, every municipality around the world. And U.S., we just happen to kick it off.
Well, I just want to read some of the names that were in the audience for Donald Trump, not even speaking. Michael Saylor, Kathy Wood, Vivek Ramaswamy, Kid Rock, Jake Paul, Laura Loomer, Cameron and Tyler Winklevoss, the billionaires. Mike, what was it like in that room?
Well, I think the room was excited. They were waiting. It was just packed. It seemed a little bit of a party, but everyone was a little bit nervous. Obviously, when's this going to happen? The wonderful pause. So in that room, it was just silent. As you were making up time up here and just trying to say what's happening. Secret Service, we couldn't even talk and communicate with each other. So it was very exciting until obviously, well, when Trump came on, I was already running over here, so I didn't get to see it and get back to my family.
Well, Charlie, maybe you had a better vantage point. What was it like to be in the room as history was happening?
Yeah, it was actually really exciting, and that was the thing that I was most curious to go to the speech. Partly to hear the content, but honestly, mostly to be in the room and understood like what the feel was and the energy was, and it was pretty extraordinary. It was extremely exciting, and I think obviously there's part of that that's like around the celebrity. Every time someone walked in, like the Winklevosses walked across, from us, you'd see people get up, they'd pull their phones out, and you're like, oh my gosh, who's that? And like, who's this high-profile person? But I think a lot of it is also just the fact that you have these really kind of mainstream, extremely high-profile people who are now talking about Bitcoin. And I think that's the thing that, for me, feels like very unique about this year and very unique about having not just one, but multiple presidential candidates speaking about it, is it's kind of like I think actually someone brought this up, but it feels almost like this tipping point, right? Of Bitcoin has been this fringe thing. It's been this like interesting, quirky little industry. Every year it's gotten a little bigger. It's gotten a little more professional. And now all of a sudden it's like it's on a national stage.
Did Bitcoin crack into the cultural consciousness this year? Brandon, you were looking at the media reports, all the headlines streaming in. It looks like the impact was huge.
The impact was huge. I mean, you're seeing headlines that we've never seen before around Bitcoin. Presidents quoting their strategic plan around Bitcoin. I mean, it's an incredible world that we're in today. And truly, the leadership of President Trump, RFK, many of the senators who were here, they're all pushing this message. Bitcoin is important. It is important to intersect Bitcoin with the political conversation, the cultural discourse. And I agree. We're at a tipping point. Like, this is the beginning of Bitcoin being part of everyone's everyday understanding of the world around them. And that's truly how adoption begins.
Well, before we go to Las Vegas and talking about next year, Bitcoin 2025, of course, you can buy tickets b.tc/conference. Find more information about Vegas next year. Don't sit at home and miss it. This year, Nashville, Tennessee, still rocking and rolling. We've got stuff going on tonight, parties all night, people out late. Mike.
Yeah, look, one of the reasons we picked this town is this is one of the best towns to party and celebrate in. They call it Nash Vegas for a reason. So this was a trial run for Vegas, but more important, the conference is so big, the event's so big that the after parties, almost every bar is booked with some type of a Bitcoin event right outside the park. We have a huge block party. It's the airplane words there. We have a huge block party that's sponsored by, Robinhood. They did a great job. There's music, there's food, really a chance for everyone to come together. Because what we've always seen from these conferences afterwards, everyone's so excited, they're so amped up, and there's nothing better than being surrounded by a bunch of Bitcoiners and sharing a good celebration. So it'll be very non-alcoholic drinks. Everyone's everyone's gonna be very calm. They're gonna be hydrated with our sponsor here, this water, and no one's gonna drink. But if they choose to drink, they might be drinking and celebrating all night. And the people who do deserve that, Brandon being one of them, who put on this whole conference, I think you'll be out all night. I think you've been at this desk for how long, Rizzo?
They'll never let me leave. Well, obviously, we've seen on Bitcoin Magazine's X, we've seen the lines around the conference center. Charlie, want to go to you. Your first experience with Nashville? Have you been to Nashville before? You're a native?
No, I haven't. I live in California. I've been to the conference 3 years in a row now. So did Miami twice and then came here. I love that you guys have it here. I'm super excited for Vegas. I think it's a huge step up. That is the mecca for hosting conferences and events. But I kind of wish there was one more year of Nashville. It's been so much fun.
Well, obviously, little known secret for people who maybe haven't been to the Bitcoin conference before, our ticket pricing is actually better to buy in early. Brandon, maybe you want to talk about the pricing structure for Bitcoin 2025. Of course, now 9 months to go before the big show.
Yeah, absolutely. We really lean into the number go up mentality of Bitcoin, and we try and adopt that in our prices. So we start low. Tickets, I think, right now are like $210.
Really?
For a festival pass. That's
And what were
pretty
they
cheap.
day of today if you came to Nashville?
$700. I mean, and that's for a festival pass. Whale passes were all the way up to $21,000. Right now, that they're $3,125. That's not too bad. That's less than what industry passes were at the door. So certainly, it's a great time to buy your ticket. You don't want to wait. You don't want to pay these high prices. You don't want to wait for the number to go up. Buy now. Much better to buy now. And I'll say too to Nashville. Nashville's my hometown. I'm born and raised here. There's a reason why we brought it here. It's because I love this city. And I think that we came into this town thinking this is going to be a nice halving year event. We're not in the mania crazy phase of Bitcoin. We're going to bring people to an authentic city where there's this level of freedom, this authentic adoption of Bitcoin happening. Bitcoin Park's here. Our headquarters are here. We want people to come enjoy it. This conference exceeded our expectations through and through. We were not expecting it to be this big. We obviously weren't expecting the president to be speaking here. And so, really, I think we are busting at the seams here in Nashville. It's going to be a fantastic night, but we are poised to enter 2025 to Vegas, where it can really explode the number of people. We can see a true bull market event, and I think it's going to wow people. So you don't want to miss that. You didn't want to miss this. Everyone watching at home, we got 300,000 people across our channels right now watching this live stream. I know you missed the conference.
That's 300,000 watching the
Just
live
on
stream.
us, yeah.
This is being broadcast, I think, about 8 different countries, countless media outlets. If you look, our stream alone, I think our stream was surpassed by so many other media outlets to watch Trump. So it was really exciting that we gave out that feed to everyone else around the world. I mean, this was really Trump bringing that to a global size. This is just the 300,000 of our most loyal people that want to come see us in Vegas now.
Well, Mike, want to stick with you. Talking about local flavor at a conference, Nashville this year, did we feel pressure to incorporate the local flavor? How did we do that, and what did the people miss at home?
Yeah. Once again, Bitcoin isn't owned by anyone, and I guess the Bitcoin conference shouldn't be owned by any city. So the fact that it was on the road, our job is not to just show the world Bitcoiners. Our job is to show Bitcoiners the world. And there's a lot of people. We have the kids camp. There's a lot of people that this is their summer vacation, right? Sure, there's industry passes and fun. These are people's summer vacation. So to give them a new chance to see a new city, so many people came in. They were excited about that. This was something new for them. And I think that that's a chance for a city to put its best foot forward. We had both senators here on the desk. We had so much, help from the city. They really wanted us there. When we announced it last year, the bars were putting the Bitcoin logos all up. I mean, so we felt the pride there. We just saw the Bitcoin logo go up on the Sphere a couple days ago. Maybe that jumped the gun on our announcement. So thanks, crypto.com. But, I really think that the flair that we had here, everything is cool to have cowboy boots and hats. This was a freedom town. But more importantly, we want to try to set the standard that the towns get excited about hosting us, that we can see what makes that kind of town or city special. And once again, everyone we've talked to, all the companies, like, wow, these Bitcoiners, this is really good. They're, they have a good time. They pay. They're nice.
And Bitcoin, too.
And Bitcoin. So I would say that the Nashville spirit here was good. I hope that maybe we don't get the gambling spirit from Vegas, but more of the...
Let's talk about that spirit. Obviously, coming up on the heels of this, I think people's expectations are going to be high quickly before the break. Let's talk about Vegas. Have we disclosed the venue? What can we share about what's in store?
Yeah, we've disclosed the venue. We're going to the Venetian. We got the dates on the website. It's going to be a fantastic event. I mean, this is a beautiful venue, a wonderful city. Believe it or not, I've never been to Las Vegas myself. I've only heard the most wonderful things. Mike tells me all the time, we got to get over there. So this is going to be a great opportunity for me, for other people my age who maybe haven't gone to Vegas yet.
So that's okay. Listen,
come
so
hang with us.
Here's the key. Ready? Do not party with Brandon in Vegas if it's the first time. Okay?
Of course, Las Vegas, the capital of conferences. Sending it over for a quick message from our sponsors. We'll be back. Stick with us. Still more to come. Not much. Winding down here at Bitcoin 2024.
See you soon.
Next year, we are bringing the Bitcoin conference to the American West, Las Vegas. The brightest minds in the world will converge to deliver Bitcoin history. Buy your tickets now at b.tc/conference/2025.
Welcome back to the Mara News Desk, powered by Bitcoin Magazine. Once again, I'm your host, Pete Rizzo, editor at Bitcoin Magazine, winding down here at Bitcoin 2024, talking about Bitcoin 2025. And of course, our sponsor, Mara, of the Mara News Desk, here, Charlie Schumacher of Mara. Charlie, your thoughts on next year in Las Vegas and what we can do to make it even better than this year?
Well, you guys have set the bar pretty high this year, but I'm super excited for Vegas because every year that we've done the conference, it's just gotten progressively better and better. The first year that I attended in 2021, and when we first started supporting you guys, it was, well, actually, if you go back to, the first year you did it, you guys were the first conference, I think, in person after COVID.
Right.
And I think it was super overwhelming, and it was a little bit
Some would
chaotic.
say during COVID.
During COVID, yeah, exactly, right? Yeah, and then the year after that, you stepped it up, super professional, a lot of preparedness, and then just it's gotten progressively better. If you look at this year, this has felt like the most professional, like sophisticated event that's gone on, but also the most fun event I think you guys have done.
Well, Brendan, how did you raise the bar? What are you particularly proud of for the people who are still at home on their couches eating popcorn and not here and want to come next year? What are you proud of?
Well, I mean, what I'm proud of most of all is my team. So, we got a tremendous team here, 50 people working on this event day and night for the past 14 months to make it happen. So truly it is no one can compete with us on that regard. We have the best people. What do I think to the people who are sitting at home? Get off your butts, right? Come to the Bitcoin conference. This is a huge opportunity for the industry. You have hundreds of companies that are hiring, that are looking to build business deals, that are trying to get you to come participate in our industry and participate in the movement. And so please, you don't attend a conference at home. You don't attend on your phone watching, this live stream right now. You got to be here. You got to come witness history. You got to be part of the moment. Were you there when Donald Trump announced the strategic reserve? Were you? No, if you're watching right now, you weren't here. You have to be part of that magic. It is truly something that people will remember for the rest of their lives. And I want to see you here. I want you to be part of the movement, part of the action, and truly part of the history.
If I could actually just tack onto that, I totally agree. I go to every event basically throughout the year, all throughout the Bitcoin space, and the events that you guys put on are the best. And I love the event in Amsterdam. I'm super excited for the event in Mina that's later this year. But the flagship event is by far my favorite. And every time we get to bring new employees here, I'm super excited because I feel like until you've been to this event, you don't necessarily understand or get the full picture of what the culture of Bitcoin is like. And here you really, really feel it. It's really exciting. There's a ton going on, and I think it's like the epicenter of the Bitcoin culture.
Well, b.tc/conference tickets on sale. Pays to get in early at the current prices. Mike, want to go with you over to just your final thoughts wrapping up here on the desk.
Well, one, I want to thank the Mara Company. You support us on every one of these live streams. We've tried to make just the live stream itself better and better. We tried to do some remote cams. We weren't expecting the Secret Service for not letting us move cameras around, so we tried.
Well, we had some great roving camera footage of the image of Q Gahimi bouncing in the kids center in the big inflatable balloon. Will stay with me.
Inspired.
Haunting, really.
Right, Q. Yeah. Q did an unbelievable job. I also, looking back at this, it's not just the staff that put in, it's the volunteers. There's so many people who volunteer for this. There's so many companies who believe in this that do it. I also want to give a special thank you to Spencer, who's over there. This guy, who is the live director on the show, did an unbelievable job. I mean, I don't think anyone's actually slept yet. Frank, Allen, everyone in the team who went from writing blog posts to now somehow being live stream director or trying to manage a conference.
Well, that's a good point, right? The Bitcoin industry is fast and growing. There's room to get on the ground. Maybe, Charlie, you can speak from an industry perspective of what it means to be in the Bitcoin industry now.
Totally. I mean, I think it's a fantastic place to learn. It's a fantastic place to grow. Like a lot of, you hear a lot of people when they're talking about price, like, oh, I wish I bought 5 years ago, 10 years ago, I'd be fine. But it really feels like this is the point where the industry is like professionalized and like taking off. we're hiring a ton. We as a company, if I was the 7th employee at Marathon, we're 124 now. We've doubled in size over the last year.
Incredible.
So I think there's tons of opportunities in the space. And if you're interested in getting into it, this is a perfect place to do it because every company is here that you would want to talk to.
B.TC/conference. Get those tickets for Vegas. Brandon, back to you about you. I know you've hired people from this conference yourself. Maybe you can talk about what you look for out there in the crowd amongst these passionate Bitcoin enthusiasts.
Well, absolutely. I mean, business is all about relationships, and there's no better place to build a relationship than in person. So, the people who join our company, a lot of times it starts with a handshake in person. It starts with a conversation, and there's no better place. The whole point we build this conference is to create places to do conversations and to meet people. And so, absolutely, you can't do much better than coming to a Bitcoin conference, and especially the Bitcoin conference. If you want to come work in the industry, you want to come grow with the industry. Charlie points out we're very much getting more sophisticated every year. The mining space, especially, has just grown up. It's crazy over the past 4 years how much the Bitcoin mining industry has grown,
and so maybe with support of the government, even growing further. Charlie, your thoughts on some of Trump's statements today?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that stuff's really exciting. The mining industry in particular has had a little bit of negative pressure and, let's say, some hurdles it's had to overcome in the last few years, especially with the last administration. So whenever you hear people talking about being pro-Bitcoin, pro-mining, pro-energy, which is so important for human flourishing, regardless of whether you're into Bitcoin or not, I think that's like a hugely exciting thing.
We've got to ask these veteran Bitcoin conference attendees. We've got 300,000 people plus, maybe millions watching at home. Why should they come next year? Give them the hard sell, Brandon.
The hard sell? You don't want to miss history. It's really that simple. We make history every year at this event. Yeah, we can try. We can try. We'll try it if you guys show up.
It's Vegas, baby. Here's the problem, right? Brandon hasn't been to Vegas. I will tell you why you have to come. Vegas is a wonderful time. I did marry my wife in Vegas. I won't lie.
But Mike, don't I want to hodl my Bitcoin in Vegas?
No. Let me tell you something. You want to hodl your Bitcoin, but Satoshi, he wrote an email once to Pete Rizzo and said, listen, spend a little bit of your Bitcoin in Vegas. You'll never forget it. And I think that's extremely important. Because once again, it's not just about hodling your Bitcoin. You spend a little bit to know why you hodl it, right? And if you're surrounded by people, you go, this is why I'm doing this. I watch people send their parents. They brought them here. I saw parents who brought their kids here. Don't do that with Vegas. It's a whole different atmosphere, right? But I think that Vegas, what you're going to see is people who are excited to kind of show off that city and have a ton of fun. I'm a little bit worried that maybe some of the panels might have to start a little bit later in the day, right? Or maybe do some by poolside. But we have some unbelievable things planned. But you know what? Vegas is a great reason to come. Bitcoin will be probably doing pretty well. And more importantly, come to see, Pete Rizzo here live in person, not just, on the TV screen.
B.TC/conference. Get those tickets. Get them early. Got to ask, only a few minutes left here. Who's on the wish list for speakers, headliner next year? Brandon, what can you share?
Oh, absolutely. There's a few folks that we almost got this year that maybe we can pull in next year. A couple of those names for sure.
We heard Kamala Harris.
Well, Kamala Harris, depending on, what position she's in next year, for sure. Nayib Bukele, president of El Salvador, is one we've always loved to invite back. Javier Milei of Argentina, someone we talked about very, very closely, tried to get him here. There were a lot of rumors flying around of a spaceman who makes cars and rocket ships, and he almost came. I can tell you he almost came, but he didn't come. So, we'd love to see him next year.
Mike, who's on your speaker wish list? Or Charlie, who do you want to see? Who's your dream Bitcoin conference lineup?
Oh man, it's hard to say. That's probably why it's your guys' job and not mine, right? To figure this stuff out.
Well, I just got to say, Warren Buffett's still out there. Still never been. Jamie Dimon, never been to a Bitcoin conference. Some big names.
Well, Jamie Dimon. If Trump gets elected, Jamie Dimon.
Well, we've heard. Yeah, he's warming, right?
Look, I think Ross would be the number one person.
Wow.
Right?
Good.
Absolutely.
So he's pardoned on day one. I think if Ross shows up. Now, he might be running the Bitcoin
and of course,
magazine
Ross
store.
Ulbricht, founder of Silk Road, we're talking about here.
Yes, sorry about that. We'll run the conference store. We'll have Ross at the conference store, but we will also have him. I think having him on main stage. Would you put him on main stage? Would you put Ross on main stage if he was
and absolutely. I'd give him the whole main stage all day for sure. Well, you mentioned Warren Buffett real quick, and I just want to give you a quote from Warren Buffett. This is a legendary quote, and I think it tees us up for Vegas pretty well. Quote, "Something like Bitcoin, it is a gambling token, and it doesn't have any intrinsic value," Buffett said. But that doesn't stop people from wanting to play the roulette wheel.
Ooh. So sounds like he's a perfect match for Vegas. B.TC/conference. Get those tickets. Las Vegas, the Venetian, 2025. Guys, winding down to our last minutes here as Bitcoin 2024 ends. I've got to ask, where does this rank amongst the conferences? Your conference veterans. Charlie, I'm going to throw it to you first. Myself, I've been to 10 years of Bitcoin conferences, but curious for your take. Is this the best Bitcoin conference of all time?
Yeah, it is. It really is. I travel, I think, 3 times a month, maybe a little too often, and I go to every event in the space. I love really small, intimate events where you get to meet a lot of people, and I love really giant events that have everyone in space, and you really get a sense of all the big, fun announcements of what people are doing. This dominates the latter category by far, and I think every year it's done that, and I think it's just gotten better every year.
Mike, gonna put you on the spot. Bitcoin 2024, Nashville, Tennessee, the best Bitcoin conference of all time?
I mean, Bitcoin 21 was really great. There's inflation score. So unfortunately, the inflation score. So technically, this one would be the best. But if you were to for inflation, it might be tied with 21.
Falling out of your chair to get out of that question. Brandon Green, Executive Director of the Bitcoin Conference. Is this the best that you guys have done?
This is the best conference we've ever done, hands down. I mean, it was magical. It made history. And it certainly blew our numbers out of the water in terms of attendance and everything. And so, you know, I'm so proud of the team. I'm so proud of what we accomplished. I'm so proud of you, Rizzo. You really did a tremendous job up here, and we're really grateful
Well,
for
of course,
you.
the industry will be digesting for days. We've seen Donald J. Trump. We've seen Robert F. Kennedy. We've seen Russell Brand. We've seen Kathy Wood. We've seen Michael Saylor. Some of us saw Kid Rock, b.t/conference, Las Vegas next year, the Venetian. We'll see you later. And this has been Bitcoin at 2024 Nashville. The conclusion here, the period at the end of a very exciting sentence. We'll be back next year for Bitcoin 2025.
This is Mara, leaders in Bitcoin mining with global energy solutions and advanced proprietary technologies. Mara sets the digital gold standard. To learn more, visit mara.com.
Next year, we are bringing the Bitcoin conference to the American West, Las Vegas. The brightest minds in the world will converge to deliver Bitcoin history. Buy your tickets now at b.tc/conference/2025.
A 1, 2, 3, hit it. I got my Web3 dictionary. Love to learn about the metaverse, NFTs and Bitcoin wearables. I've got my NFTs piled to the sky, and they're giving back to the world. Everybody's got what they need, yeah. Thank you. I got my Web3 dictionary, yeah. Bitcoin is digital gold. Bitcoin is digital gold. Bitcoin is digital gold, is digital gold, is digital gold. Bitcoin is digital gold.
New era of layer 2 life.
ETH is money, wallets and Web3, NFT meetup, you and me. DeFi is the frontier. Web3 journeys far and near, far and near. Where do we go from here? Regenerating